Chapter 3656. The sudden turn of events caused everyone's attention to be focused on him. Hence, everyone saw a slovenly-looking old man lying on the ground, clutching his stomach and rolling left and right. He kept saying, "I owe yo murder," bullying an old man. Youngsters nowadays don't know how to respect the old and love the young. A few black lines appeared on the foreheads of the crowd when they heard that, because this old man who was lying on the ground, it was the senior from the Underworld Palace. How could the senior from the Underworld Palace be sent flying by the Linglong Hall Master? And he was lying on the ground, so weakly? Wasn't this too fantastical? Well, that was what everyone was thinking. The two Hall Masters, who were originally filled with arrogance, also thought so. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale as his bright and adorable eyes widened. You're talking nonsense. We didn't hit you at all. Even if it was just the wind from our palms, it's not possible to hit your stomach. Old Lai, who was lying on the ground, moaning, suddenly paused and gave a faint "oh." Following that, his hand moved to his chest. He continued to flop on the ground. "Io, the Linglong Hall Master is hitting someone at the auction, beating an old man like me who has no one to rely on and no strength to even truss a chicken. You're trying to take my life." Everyone, City Lord Lu and Executive Elder, the two Linglong Hall Masters, if this old man didn't do it on purpose, they would eat *T live. But no matter what everyone thought in their hearts, Old Lai insisted that the Hall Master was the one who hurt him. His entire body was in pain. He was on the verge of death. This hubbub. Not only the people on the second floor crowded around. Those who were attending the auction on the first floor all crowded over. At this moment, the faces of the two Hall Masters were dark and extremely ugly. Hearing the discussions of those onlookers who didn't know the truth, they gritted their teeth so hard that they almost broke. They couldn't wait to strike this old man who was creating trouble in front of them. The scene was chaotic. Chao Yinyan's brows were filled with a smile. "This move of yours is really vicious," giving him a taste of his own medicine. Yiqing Luo replied calmly. He asked Lao Lai to put on a show. Even the Linglong Palace's Hall Master would have some misgivings. Because Old Lai represented the Hell Sect, it didn't matter if Old Lai was lying on the ground or not. Those were the Hall Masters of the Linglong Palace, the ones who had injured the people of the Underworld Palace. If news of this were to spread to the Underworld Palace, those lunatics from the Underworld Palace were definitely going to cause a huge commotion. Everyone was absolutely convinced. The Underworld Palace didn't care what kind of place the Linglong Palace was. Did they have the strength to fight against Linglong Palace? In any case, I'll just kill him first. No one could keep up with the Underworld Palace's train of thought. Therefore, the two Hall Masters of the Linglong Palace knew that Old Lai was pretending. However, he still did not dare to act rashly. Listening to the surrounding people pointing and gossiping, Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. He said in exasperation, "The Underworld Palace's people were injured because he attacked first. I was just defending myself. Besides, we're talking about the person in charge of Treasure's assembly right now. Don't try to confuse us." She tried hard to change the topic. However, he was interrupted by a contemptuous sneer. Hall Master Lu's gaze was sinister as he looked towards the direction of the voice. He saw that young lady who was standing in front of Pei Sheng slowly walking towards Old Lai. Chapter 3657. No matter if Old Lai made the first move, but it's a fact that you injured him. Yiqing Luo was supporting Old Lai as she raised her head, staring coldly at Hall Master Lu. The moment she said that, Hall Master Lu's face turned green and red. This slut was repeating the words that she had said to Pei Sheng earlier on back onto her, not waiting for Hall Master Lu to speak. The young lady curled her pink lips again, slightly arching her brows, filled with contempt and disdain. As the person in charge of the auction, the executive, isn't it a bigger mistake to break the law knowingly? She paused slightly and continued. Of course, I'm not trying to confuse the public. Just like what Hall Master Lu said to Ah Sheng earlier, no matter what the reason is, Ah Sheng is in the wrong since he made the first move. Then why is Hall Master Lu so stubbornly arguing that it was Old Lai who made the first move? It was only then that Hall Master Lu realized what it felt like to be sullen. Refute? How was she going to refute? If she retorted, wouldn't that be slapping her own mouth? If she didn't refute, did she really have to admit that she was in the wrong for injuring Hell Palace's people? Not to mention that after admitting it, she would slap her own mouth. Just say that she admitted to injuring Hell Palace's people. That would be forming a feud with Hell Palace's people. This was the first time Hall Master Lu felt so sullen. Hall Master Ji frowned arrogantly, looking at the rhythm which was originally in her grasp being easily taken away by a young lady. The gaze she shot towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with probing. Hall Master Lu cast a pleading look. Hall Master Ji's brows creased even tighter. But looking at the young lady's calm face, she still took a step forward. Her tone was cold, full of a royal elder sister's demeanor. This matter, the auction will give Hell Palace's senior an explanation, but the matter of treasure gatherings, person in charge injuring someone, there must be an explanation. While Hall Master Ji was saying this, her gaze was completely on Yi Qing Luo. The chilliness in her eyes seemed to be threatening Yi Qing Luo. Facing the incoming pressure, Yi Qing Luo's expression didn't change as her lips curled into a faint arc. Her voice was calm. Hall Master Ji is right. Treasure gathering, indeed, needs an explanation. Yi Qing Luo raised her chin slightly. Boundless aura flames shot out from all directions, carrying with it a boundless might. It corroded Hall Master Ji and Hall Master Lu. Yi Qing Luo totally did not restrain her imposing manner. His gaze was like a burning torch as he stared at the two Hall Masters, and he said word by word, "It's common knowledge that a Shung's strength is weak, and he's just an ordinary profounder." And through the discussions of the surrounding people, understand some things. She raised her hand and pointed to the front, in the direction of the representatives of the 4 trading houses. Although they are all hedonistic sons of rich families, their strength is not bad under the nurturing of the forces behind them. At least, they are above Asheng. Yi Qing Luo's tone abruptly rose as her tone became heavier. For cultivators who have been groomed, against a weak Asheng who had never cultivated since 5 years ago. She paused for a moment and fixed her gaze on the Hall Master. "Please tell me, Hall Masters, how did Asheng defeat the 4 of them by himself? Furthermore, the 4 of them had no chance to retaliate." Following Yi Qing Luo's interrogation, the people around all sucked in a breath of cold air. What she said was simply too logical. No matter who it was, they were unable to believe it. Chapter 3658. If there was no plan behind this, no premeditated, they wouldn't believe it even if they were beaten to death. Wait a minute, plan? Premeditated? Why? To design a trading house, which had been at the bottom of the auction for 4 consecutive years. This stance was obviously to make use of the person in charge of the treasure-gathering trading house, to injure the representatives of the other 4 trading houses, to cancel the treasure gathering's qualification to participate in the auction. Not only to cancel the auction's qualification, but also to offend the 4 top 10 trading houses. Even if the treasure gathering was removed from the auction, that would also incur the revenge of the 4 trading houses. He was planning on killing Zhu Bao, not giving Zhu Bao the slightest chance of survival. Who on earth had such a huge enmity with the treasure gathering? This answer surfaced in everyone's mind, but no one dared to say out that person's name. When Yi Qing Luo raised this doubt, the expressions of the 2 Hall Masters froze on their faces. Their faces were dead silent and pitch black. There was no need to guess. The person who wanted to put the treasure gathering to death, other than Xiao Yulu, there was no second person. Their own minds followed Yi Qing Luo's words as Xiao Yulu's figure surfaced. Not to mention the surrounding crowd. The 2 Hall Masters exchanged glances with one another, being stirred up by Yi Qing Luo. Their motive had become extremely tricky, and at this moment, Yi Qing Luo had no intention to let it go. Her eyes were calm, as her smile was faint. The flame around her was slightly still, Previously, Shang also said that this is the treasure gathering's one and only chance. Who in the entire without embroiling city doesn't know that Shang treats the treasure gathering as his own life? Who would use their own life as a joke? Speaking to this point, Yiqing Luo intentionally stopped talking. A pair of originally indifferent eyes suddenly became as sharp as a blade as it swept across the surrounding crowd. Wherever her gaze landed, it was as if she was covered by ice. Everyone couldn't help but shiver. Finally, the young lady's gaze fixed on the hallmaster. It was at that moment the young lady's flame suddenly exploded. An invisible pressure densely spread in the air. She looked at the hallmaster, speaking word by word. I seriously suspect that someone wants to make use of this opportunity to frame the treasure gathering, to scheme against it. As a partner of treasure gathering, I raise an objection to the auction. I hope that the auction can give treasure gathering an explanation. The girl's voice was sonorous and forceful. It also had an irresistible charm. It was extremely shocking. Even the two hall masters were stunned by Yiqing Luo until their pupils went into a daze as they stood rooted to the ground. After a long while, Hall Master Ji finally regained his senses and said, Everything you said is just your guess. The injuries on the representatives of the 4 trading firms can't be faked. Little girl, do you mean the fact that I was injured by the 2 of you is fake? Lao Lai, who was lying on the ground, felt unbalanced. He abruptly sat up straight and pressed his hand on his chest as he coldly snorted and said, I've already made my intentions clear. Since you insist on using this matter to make things difficult for that kid Pei Shang, then I'll make things difficult for you. I'd like to see what kind of despicable abilities you people from Linglong Palace Hall have. He had to admit it. Old Lai's maneuver was simply amazing. This protectiveness was simply too amazing. Lao Lai's words successfully made the 2 hall masters' faces turn livid. At this moment, the 2 of them could be said to be riding a tiger, unable to back down. Chapter 36:59. Not only would Pei Sheng not be punished according to the original plan, they would also bear the burden of Linglong Palace was afraid of the Underworld Palace. If such words were spread out, Linglong Palace would never let them off. However, if they really disregarded Old Lai's reputation and insisted on using Pei Shang's injury incident as a pretext to make a fuss, that would be openly challenging the Underworld Palace. When the Underworld Palace really went crazy and rushed to Linglong Palace to make a scene, the 2 of them would be the ones to bear the blame. It was more likely that Linglong Palace would even want to appease the Underworld Palace. They would directly hand the 2 of them over. It was not right to advance or retreat. Hall Master Lu felt like vomiting blood. She kept looking at Castellan Lu and the executive elder. However, those people all averted their gazes, deliberately avoiding eye contact with her. Her bright eyes flickered. Suddenly, his gaze fell on the tall figure of Hall Master Ji. A trace of treachery flashed in her eyes. She was about to speak. The person beside him suddenly raised his voice, interrupting Hall Master Lu's words before he could speak. Rules are rules. No one can violate the rules of the auction. Without rules, nothing can be accomplished. If everyone was like you, fighting in the trading hall because of a disagreement, wouldn't the auction be in a mess? Hall Master Ji looked impartial and said solemnly, no matter what the person in charge of the auction house did, whether it was a scheme or a trap, now, he has to accept the punishment for injuring someone. She paused and suddenly raised her hand to grab Hall Master Lu, who was as petite as a Lolita. Hall Master Lu did not have time to react. Her arms were already grabbed by Hall Master Ji. She couldn't even break free from his grip. Hall Master Lu's expression was cold. Of course, as the person in charge of the auction, it is a fact that Hall Master Lu injured someone. Therefore, Hall Master Lu will also punish him according to the rules of the auction. Hall Master Lu's face turned pale. She turned her head and glared at Hall Master Ji. However, Hall Master Ji did not seem to notice her gaze at all. Instead, he looked at Castellan Lu and the executive elder with a straight face and said, How about we settle this matter this way? Everyone was shocked. He really didn't expect that. Hall Master Ji was willing to sacrifice his comrade's life. He was determined to get Pei Sheng off the stage. Just how big of a grudge was this? When Yiqing Luo heard Hall Master Ji's words, her brows sunk slightly. She hadn't expected that either. To think that Hall Master Ji would resort to such a self-harming method to get Pei Sheng to leave the auction. He had made up his mind, not letting her win the honor of the best trading house for treasure-gathering auction. This time, this is going to be difficult. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as her mind spun quickly. At this moment, suddenly, the door of a private room that had been tightly shut not far away slowly opened. A man dressed in black as a dark guard slowly walked through the crowd and walked over. The crowd was initially very impatient because of the pushing and shoving. But as soon as he saw the black-clothed hidden guard, he felt a chill run down his spine. All of them suppressed all their emotions in their hearts. They obediently made way for the black-clothed secret guard to pass. The black-clothed shadow guard walked up to the two hall masters. The discussions in the surroundings came to an abrupt halt. The entire corridor on the second floor fell into silence. Chapter 3660. When the black-clothed secret guard spoke. Yiqing Luo could obviously hear a series of breaths being sucked in. Even Hall Master Ji's face darkened and darkened. His eyes were filled with disbelief. He couldn't understand why this black-clothed hidden guard would come out to help the treasure-gathering trading house. Those from the Scarlet Clear Pavilion. Xiao Yinyan couldn't help but be surprised when he saw the black-clothed hidden guard. He squinted his eyes as his gaze slowly shifted onto Yiqing Luo. He felt that the people from the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion did not appear to help the treasure-gathering exchange house. It was because of Luo. It was an intuition. However, why would Luo be in contact with people from the Red Clearness Pavilion? Red Clear Pavilion? Yiqing Luo heard Xiao Yinyan's mutter and looked over in puzzlement. Xiao Yinyan was taken aback. You don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Yiqing Luo hesitated for a moment. I don't really listen to the news from the outside world. She was someone who had just come to the upper realm from the Nirvana realm not too long ago. She didn't know anything about the famous people in the Earth realm. It was Elder Winsong, Old Man Song, who had been asleep for many years, probably wouldn't understand either. Xiao Yinyan shifted a few steps closer to Yiqing Luo. The two hall masters' gazes shifted onto Yiqing Luo. His eyes were surging with endless anger, but he didn't dare to flare up. Xiao Yinyan stared at him and said in a low voice, "The Red Clear Pavilion is a mysterious force in the upper realm. They travel to various places in the upper realm, appearing and disappearing unpredictably. Rumor has it that Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master is someone from the heaven realm, and his strength is extraordinary." A mysterious force? A mysterious force created by the people of heaven realm. It was no wonder that when the citizens saw the black-clothed shadow guards, they were terrified. They all became respectful and courteous, not daring to utter a single word. They were all afraid of the power of the Red Clear Pavilion. However, with the strength of the heaven realm, why would they appear and speak up for Zhu Bao? You really don't know about the Red Clear Pavilion? Xiao Yinyan saw Yiqing Luo's enlightened expression as he was astonished. Yiqing Luo shook her head. Although it sounds very powerful, but I really don't know. Xiao Yinyan narrowed his eyes. Yiqing Luo's brows rose. Surely you don't think that the reason why the Red Clear Pavilion spoke up for the Treasures Exchange Hall is because of me? I'm not assuming. Xiao Yinyan glanced at her. I'm sure. Yiqing Luo. She obviously had a physique that attracted hatred wherever she went. It wasn't a physique that could attract people's liking and make people help them. While they were talking, Hall Master Ji had already loosened his grip on Hall Master Lu. Hall Master Ji's face darkened. Why is the pavilion master here? This is not something you can ask. The black-clothed shadow guard said coldly. Hall Master Ji's face turned ashen when he was rebuked in front of everyone. He averted his gaze in embarrassment. Hall Master Lu sneered as he glanced at Hall Master Ji. He was still holding a grudge against Hall Master Ji for what she had done to him earlier. Hall Master Lu sneered. What a pity. Lord Pavilion Master wanted to protect the treasure's trading house, but your plans have all failed. We're working together. Hall Master Ji clenched his fists and glared at Zhang Xian angrily. Do you think you're any better than me? I'm happy to see you unhappy, Hall Master Lu said disapprovingly. Just as the two Hall Masters were about to start a fight, City Lord Lu immediately came out to smooth things over. All right. Since the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master has personally testified for the Treasures Exchange Hall, that means that this matter is indeed not the Treasures Exchange Hall's fault. Chapter 3661. How could this be? The representatives of the 4 trading houses, who were supporting their young masters, immediately turned pale. This is clearly him. How could you? They couldn't even speak clearly. Obviously, they were very angry. City Lord Lu didn't wait for them to finish speaking and had already interrupted them sternly. Misty is right. The young masters of these 4 trading houses used the rules of the auction to frame other trading houses. This kind of behavior is really too despicable. As the organizer, we will definitely give the treasure gathering an explanation. The executive elder also followed. This attitude made the representatives of the 4 trading houses so angry that they wanted to vomit blood. There was also the trading house that was dissatisfied and wanted to refute. However, it was stopped by the side of the trading house that was watching the show. Forget it. The Red Clear Court has already stepped in. It is already the best result that they didn't take your lives. You should be content. Don't make your situation even more ugly. The face of the representative of the trading house was flushed red. City Lord Lu coughed lightly, in case of accidents, hurriedly called over the people of the 4 trading houses and directly forcibly took them downstairs. No matter how the 4 trading houses begged for mercy, no one cared, until the representatives of the 4 trading houses were directly thrown out of the auction in front of everyone's eyes. For a moment, they suffered all kinds of pointing and criticism from the citizens that came and went. Smelly old man, let me tell you, if you don't help me get justice today, I will definitely ask my father to kick you out of the trading house. When had the young masters who were beaten suffered such grievances? They instantly felt that they had lost face and started to shout. The representatives of the few trading houses looked at their young masters, whose face was red and swollen like a pig's head. They really wanted to punch him. You dare to be arrogant now? Why is it that when you were inside, you were like a turtle with its head in its shell and didn't say a word? Of all people, you had to provoke the treasure-gathering trading house that has already climbed up the tree. You still have the face to blame us. Don't you have any eyesight? The treasure-gathering trading house was able to climb up after being at the bottom for as long as 4 years, and even let the auction house arrange the treasure gathering on the 2nd floor. You should know clearly, if it didn't have this ability, would it be arranged on the 2nd floor? You still have the face to yell at us? Think about how you're going to explain this to boss and the people behind you when you get back. The representatives were also fuming with rage. He was having a headache after being messed around by these few young masters. Young Master Wang held onto his broken hand and felt wronged. We didn't do it on purpose. It's all because of that woman. If we had known that treasure gathering had such a strong backer, we wouldn't have been bewitched by that woman. That woman is too ruthless. To think that she's the Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city. Bah! The 3 young masters, who were still conscious, ridiculed each other. The representatives understood the deeper meaning behind his words, and their expressions froze. What woman? What Empyrean fairy? It's the Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city, that Princess Yulu. She told us where the treasure-gathering hall is located on the 2nd floor and intentionally provoked us to go over and greet her. The representatives looked at each other. The Empyrean fairy of without embroiling city. Their eyes lit up, and they quickly walked toward the auction. We want to see City Lord Lu. We have something to say. At this moment, the people on the 2nd floor had no idea what was happening below. Chapter 3662. Yi Ching Luo speechlessly looked at the fawning city, Lord Lu. The moment the people from Red Clear Pavilion appeared, everyone felt that this Red Clear Pavilion was here for her. Di Fukov Miss D, that old lie who was originally injured, suddenly jumped up from the ground and rushed to Yi Ching Luo's side. When did you hook up with the people from Red Clear Pavilion? You obviously agreed to let me help you. How could I let that Red Clear Pavilion snatch my limelight? Old Lie's face was filled with unwillingness as he stared resentfully at the black-robed guard. Yi Ching Luo once again. Damn it, she really didn't know anyone from Red Clear Pavilion, and had nothing to do with people from Heaven Realm. No, that's not right. Jin Zi was also considered as someone from Heaven Realm. But Jin Zi, the Huangfu family's man, when he saw her, he probably couldn't wait to find trouble with her. It was impossible for him to use the name of Red Clear Pavilion to help. So a large group of people thought that Red Clear Pavilion appeared because of her. What kind of joke was this? Just at this moment, the black-clothed dark team guard, whom Old Lie had glared at with hatred, walked toward them step by step. Every step he took, Yi Ching Luo's brows creased slightly. Old Lie directly stood in front of her and opened up his arms, blocking her behind his back. Following that, he put on a protective expression. People from Red Clear Pavilion, this is Hell Palace's VIP. Don't even think of snatching. However, his valiant and high-spirited declaration of sovereignty didn't make the black-robed guard's expression waver at all. The black-robed guard only stood in front of Old Lie. His vision went past Old Lie and looked towards Yi Ching Luo. Miss, my master invites you over. Everyone stared at the black-robed guard in astonishment and looked at Yi Ching Luo. Everyone's faces were filled with shock and disbelief, whereas Xiao Yinyan, Pei Sheng, and Old Man Song all had an expression of, indeed, they were here for Luo. Yi Ching Luo, Motherf asterisk her. Red Clear Pavilion's target was really for her. Mississippi, the black robe guard called out in a heavy tone. Yi Ching Luo gathered her thoughts and frowned at him. Who is your master? It didn't take long for her to reach the Earth domain. This Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master, who was known as a mysterious force, actually wanted to see her. This action of speaking up for the treasures trading firm, was it a good deed or a bad deed? The black-clothed secret guard said indifferently, You will know once you follow me in. Yi Ching Luo's brows rose. If you don't explain clearly, I'm just a young lady with no strength to truss a chicken, with a devastatingly beautiful face. If I follow you like this, what should I do if your master's bestial nature flares up? As she spoke, she waved her hand. I'm not going. The onlookers, too weak to even strangle a chicken? Girl, are you sure you understand the true meaning of this word? Furthermore, if the pavilion master of the Red Clarity Pavilion really took a fancy to you and his bestial nature was unleashed, wouldn't that be your good fortune? Wasn't it enough to have the master of the Red Clarity Pavilion as his backing? The surrounding spectators all wished that they could enter the eyes of the Scarlet Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. The black-robed secret guard was apparently agitated by Yi Ching Luo's shameless words. That expressionless face twitched a little. Following that, his cold eyes stared at Yi Ching Luo as he spoke calmly. Master said he guessed that you would say that, so he asked me to pass on a message to you. The crowd pricked up their ears. Yi Ching Luo raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. Chapter 36-63. I go. Yi Ching Luo's gaze turned cold as she raised her tone, interrupting the black-robed guard's words. Luo, Xiao Yinyan, and Pei Sheng looked worriedly at the black-robed guard and looked at Yi Ching Luo. They totally didn't understand the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, leaving Luo alone to meet that mysterious man. How could they be at ease? Old Lie, who was ignored by the black-robed guard, had an ugly expression. Who is your pavilion master? How dare you snatch someone from me? I'm telling you, with me here today, none of you can. Old Lie. Yi Ching Luo raised her hand and placed it on Old Lie's shoulder. She patted lightly on Old Lie's shoulder. No matter, his master might be an old acquaintance. The name that the black-clothed secret guard had called out was Miss Yi. In other words, The Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master knew her real identity. Most importantly, although the black-robed guard's expression was cold, his attitude towards her wasn't considered good. But she could tell. The other party didn't have any murderous intent. Moreover, the other party had appeared and helped her earlier. She was also curious who the other party was. Seeing Yi Qing Luo's insistence, the few of them had a solemn expression as they looked at each other for a moment. Old Lai then put on an abandoned expression as he gave a heavy harumph. He strode towards the previous cabin and entered. City Lord Lu immediately tried to smooth things over with a smile. The auction is about to start. Please don't take this episode to heart. Following that, he smiled towards Pei Shang's direction. Young Master Qiao, Boss Pei, both of you return to your cabin to rest for a while. I guarantee that no one else will disturb the treasure-gathering cabin. There was no need for his guarantee at all. The Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master had personally invited Di Luo. Who else would take things too hard to find trouble with the treasure gathering? Undercity Lord Lu and the executive elders' insistent request. The VIPs on the second floor also returned to their own cabins. But the topic of discussion was no longer about the auction, what good items would be put up for auction in the auction, but was about Di Luo's identity, as well as the relationship between Di Luo and the Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master. On the other side, Yi Qing Luo followed the black-robed guard and stopped at the entrance of the cabin. The black-clothed secret guard stopped in his tracks. He had no intention of entering. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at the black-robed secret guard as she extended her perception towards the interior of the house. The bodyguard in black glanced at her and said indifferently, "I'll be waiting for you inside." Yi Qing Luo's perception swept around. He didn't sense anyone's aura in the room. Yi Qing Luo frowned slightly. She couldn't sense anything with her senses, or there was really nothing inside. Either that, or the person in the room was more powerful than her. Moreover, it was higher than her profound rank by at least 3 ranks. Although, in the Earth realm, there were countless people who had higher profound ranks than her. But, with her perception, even when facing Qiao Yulu, who had used external power to break through to the divine profound realm, she was still able to react. Her heart froze up tightly. "Miss Yi, if you're not willing to go in, I don't mind helping you." The black-robed secret guard saw Yi Qing Luo not taking any action and opened his mouth to urge. True enough, this person knew her true identity. She raised her hand and placed it on the door handle. But she didn't push the door open. Instead, she raised her head and looked at the black-robed secret guard. "Your master, who exactly is he?" Chapter 36-64. Yi Qing Luo hadn't had the chance to probe further. Suddenly, the room door creaked open automatically. Yi Qing Luo's hand, which was on the door handle, sank downwards. Her body unconsciously staggered forward. Her feet hit the door sill. Her entire body fell downwards. F***K. Yi Qing Luo cursed in her heart. How unlucky could she be? She was about to take a deep breath to stabilize her body, which was about to kiss the earth. She hadn't had the time to react. She only felt a familiar smell coming from her nostrils. A simple yet elegant plum fragrance lingered in her nostrils. A pair of thick arms steadily caught her. Yi Qing Luo froze. This aura was familiar, almost a whiff. Yi Qing Luo was able to ascertain the other party's identity, but she couldn't understand. Why would he appear here? Yi Qing Luo frowned as she struggled to break free from the wrist, which was restraining her arm. But that arm, which was supporting her, suddenly increased the strength of his hands. Her delicate body was locked tightly in the other party's arms. Yi Qing Luo's brows knitted even tighter. She looked up angrily. The moment she looked up, she met a pair of deep as the abyss, with a bottomless black pupils. That pair of eyes were extremely dark and gloomy. It was quiet and serene, without the slightest bit of brilliance. Just staring fixedly at Yi Qing Luo, there was a trace of coldness in his eyes. However, if one were to look closely, one would be able to see deep emotions in the depths of those black eyes. Yiqing Luo's delicate body stiffened as her pink lips pursed slightly. Let go. She hugged the man at such a close distance. It made Yiqing Luo feel extremely uncomfortable. Her body was repulsed by any intimate touch from the opposite sex other than DMO Xian. I won't let go. The man opened his mouth. His voice was deep, and his pair of dark eyes became increasingly deep. I miss you very much. Even when I see you, I can't bear to let go. Following his words, he even forcefully pulled Yiqing Luo into his arms. Both arms hugged the young lady's delicate body tightly, as though he wanted to taint the young lady's body with his scent. That plum fragrance, although simple yet elegant. But Yiqing Luo couldn't stand it. Her eyelashes fluttered, and she grabbed his hand that was restraining her. Zhu Wuxin, let go of me. The person in front of him. It was none other than Zhu Wuxin, Red Clear Pavilion's pavilion master, Zhu Wuxin. Yiqing Luo had not expected that she would be able to meet Zhu Wu Xin when she reached the Earth boundary. Previously, she had indeed guessed Zhu Wuxin's identity. He was definitely not just the castle lord of Death God Castle in the lower realm, or the Chu Wuxin who was respectfully addressed as young Master Zhu. However, she didn't expect Chu Wuxin to be such a famous figure in the upper three realms. Since he was a mysterious force in the upper realm, and it was said that he was from the heaven realm, why did he have to go to the lower world to cooperate with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness? Moreover, since Zhu Wuxin was someone from the upper realm, it was impossible for him to do so. In that case, what happened when Zhu Wuxin and the original owner of this body decided on a relationship over 10 years ago? When Zhu Wuxin heard her soft rebuke, he laughed softly. A faint smile bloomed on that cold and contoured face. He smiled. Yiqing Luo, I finally heard you calling my name. I miss you so much. Yiqing Luo's face didn't show any joy of reuniting with an old friend. She pursed her lips tightly as her tone was displeased. If you want to reminisce about the past, let go of me now. Otherwise, if you continue to maintain this position, then there's nothing for us to talk about. Chapter 3665. Yiqing Luo, who had left Zhu Wu Xian's embrace, moved and immediately distanced herself from Zhu Wu Xian by 5 steps. She stood at the other corner of the room as she looked at him warily. Why are you here? Zhu Wu Xian was still smiling. It made his handsome face, which was cold and stiff, look much gentler in contrast. Especially that pair of deep black eyes. It was tainted with a faint warmth. This was a smile from the bottom of his heart. His vision had always been following Yiqing Luo, as though he was looking at his own treasure, cherishing and deep. You're here, so I'm here. Words filled with deep emotions. But it made Yiqing Luo tremble. Follow me. No. Zhu Wu Xian replied straightforwardly. Yiqing Luo didn't let her guard down. Then how did you know that I'm here? Zhu Wu Xian remained silent for a moment, as the emotions in his eyes had some changes. The only thing that didn't change was that he kept staring at Yiqing Luo, not willing to shift his gaze away. I know that you're in the Earth boundary, so I followed you here. He paused. When I heard the name Di Luo, I knew. It must be you. So here I am. Yiqing Luo looked at Zhu Wu Xian for some time. Finally, she retracted her vigilant gaze. Based on Zhu Wu Xian's character, he shouldn't be lying. Why did you come here to look for me? Or could it be that the people from Secluded Palace are also in the Earth boundary? Yiqing Luo sat on the chair by the side as she frowned slightly. She recalled the black-robed men who had set up the soul-devouring array and made use of Qiao Yilu to kill her. Those black-robed men seemed to want her soul. She had been guessing. Could those black-robed men be from Secluded Palace? Now that she saw Zhu Wu Xian, Yiqing Luo was even more suspicious of those black-robed men's identities. I've already canceled the collaboration with Secluded Palace. Zhu Wu Xian's eyes were burning as his dark eyes were filled with cloying gentleness. Yiqing Luo, Secluded Palace hurt you, so I can't help them anymore. Hurt me? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. It seems that when we were in Nirvana realm, secluded palace had done quite a number of things to hurt me. Zhu Wuxian's expression finally showed some changes. He frowned. I'm sorry. This baffling apology made Yiqing Luo slightly stunned. Then, he understood the meaning behind Zhu Wuxian's apology. He was apologizing for working with the Palace of Gloomy Darkness. Yiqing Luo met his gaze calmly and indifferently. There's no need to apologize for what has already happened. Moreover, this indeed has nothing much to do with you. Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian frowned. I don't like the look in your eyes, and I don't like you excluding me. Yiqing Luo stood up. Thank you for your help earlier. I will return this favor to you if there's a chance. As she spoke, she walked towards the door. The auction is about to begin. I'll head back to treasure gathering first. Yiqing Luo. Her feet had yet to move. Zhu Wuxian's low and hoarse voice came from behind. His voice was very soft, and there was a hint of hurt in it. An old friend reuniting in an old place. Must you use this kind of attitude to face me? I'm helping you, not because I want a favor from you. A young man who had always been indifferent. At this moment, he uttered a long string of words. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back and couldn't see her expression clearly. Chapter 36-66. The more they got involved, it would only make Zhu Wuxian's feelings for her grow deeper. She was unable to reciprocate his feelings. She shouldn't get too involved with Zhu Wuxian. As for the favor of helping you gather treasure, no matter if you accept it or not, I will definitely return it. Yiqing Luo secretly said resolutely. Zhu Wuxian fixed his gaze on the young lady's eyes. Looking at the young lady's pair of charming eyes, it was filled with sincerity and determination. His heart seemed to have been pierced fiercely by something. He could tell. Yiqing Luo really didn't want to get too involved with him. He could tell. Yiqing Luo was avoiding the feelings between them. His lips suddenly curled upwards as he smiled. That handsome, icy cold face seemed to surface with a layer of pain emotion. Obviously knowing that she didn't want to get too involved with him. Obviously knowing that she was unable to accept his feelings. But he couldn't control his heart. He couldn't control the urge to get closer to Yiqing Luo. Even if he was hated, at least in her heart, there was still a place for him. Zhu Wuxian's eyes suddenly flashed. His figure followed closely and got closer to Yiqing Luo. The sudden plum fragrance assaulted her senses. Yiqing Luo staggered a step backwards. But her wrist was caught by Zhu Wuxian. Yiqing Luo wanted to struggle. Zhu Wuxian's grip became even tighter. His slender fingers wrapped tightly around her wrist. Beneath his eyes, there was a glint which had a deep meaning which no one could see clearly. When Yiqing Luo met his eyes, she was stunned by his eyes which were as deep as the sea. You said, you want to return the favor, right? Zhu Wuxian's voice was very low and filled with magnetism. Yiqing Luo's slender brows creased as she slightly struggled against his hand, and her pink lips pursed slightly. Yes. Instead, Zhu Wuxian tightened his grip on her wrist and leaned forward. Yiqing Luo fell into Zhu Wuxian's arms. Just as she was about to struggle, a man's low and hoarse voice floated from above her head. Then, the favor I want you to return is to accompany me during the auction. Yiqing Luo's hand were placed on his chest, trying to pull apart the distance between them. He was about to refuse. The man's voice floated down again. I don't ask you to stay by my side. I just want to watch you during the auction. Once the auction is over, I will leave the Earth domain. His voice sounded a little lonely. Just listening to it made one's heart ache. It's just a small request. Can I? Yiqing Luo's heart was filled with complicated emotions. Her eyelashes fluttered, and her heart felt heavy and uncomfortable. To be honest, she did not dislike Zhu Wuxian. She also admired his persistence in love, even if it was just his stubbornness and not love. But he still insisted that he liked her heart, if not for Zhu Wuxian's stubbornness toward her. Perhaps they could really become good friends. Listening to the man's low voice, Yi Zichen's eyes widened. Yiqing Luo's heart wasn't feeling good at all. She sighed. Okay, I promise you. Zhu Wuxin loosened his arms around her, his eyes filled with a faint smile. Thank you. Yi Qing Luo looked at him with a complicated expression. The usually cold young man in front of her was like a kid who had stolen candy. It was impossible to say that her heart wasn't touched. Of course, this touch didn't mean that she was touched by his feelings. Only, her heart ached a little. Her heart ached for his persistence towards the original owner. Chapter 36-67. I need to go over and greet the brothers from the treasure gathering first. They will be worried. Yi Qing Luo retreated a few steps away from Zhu Wuxian and said. Zhu Wuxian's brows rose. You've just arrived in the Earth Realm not too long ago, and you've already integrated into the Earth Realm's lifestyle so quickly. He paused as he squinted his eyes. You even became brothers with those people? When Yi Qing Luo heard that, she didn't reply him, but her eyes flickered slightly as she looked at him in puzzlement. Didn't you say that you didn't follow me? Then how do you know that I've just arrived in the Earth Realm not too long ago? According to what DMO Xian said, she had been in the Earth Realm for at least a month. Zhu Wuxian didn't know that she had been unconscious for at least half a month before she regained consciousness. How could he be so certain that she had just arrived in the Earth Realm not too long ago? Zhu Wuxian's expression didn't change as his deep eyes looked deeply at her. The day you left Nirvana Realm, I sensed your presence disappearing in Nirvana Realm, and I roughly guessed your whereabouts. He laughed lightly, but you're indeed you. No matter where you go, there will always be people who will succumb to your charm. He smiled as he looked at her with a gentle and deep gaze. Yi Qing Luo felt a little uncomfortable from that gaze. She averted her gaze and coughed lightly. Treat people with sincerity, and you will get those who treat you sincerely. I'll greet them first. Saying that, she hurriedly opened the room door and walked out. Yi Qing Luo didn't turn back. Naturally, she didn't see it. At the instance when her gaze shifted away, that young man who was looking at her with a burning gaze had a slight change in his expression. He heaved a sigh of relief, as though he had avoided a certain topic. After coming out from Zhu Wuxian's cabin, Yi Qing Luo felt the gazes from all directions converging onto her. Everyone was curious. Her relationship with the Red Clear Pavilion Master. They were all curious about the outcome after her meeting with the Red Clear Pavilion Master. Yi Qing Luo didn't bother about those gazes which were shot at her. She headed directly towards the treasure gathering cabin. Wherever she passed by, as long as there was someone passing by, they would subconsciously give way to her. Yi Qing Luo, after getting involved with the Red Clear Pavilion Master, how could he even get preferential treatment? Before he could get far, he saw Pei Sheng and the others rushing over. On seeing that Yi Qing Luo was safe and sound, his anxious and solemn expression loosened up. You're finally out. Xiao Yinyan sized up Yi Qing Luo for a moment. Is the person inside Hongqing Pavilion's Pavilion Master? Yi Qing Luo nodded her head. Are you really acquainted with the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion's Pavilion Master? Xiao Yinyan asked with a complicated expression. From seeing Yi Qing Luo safe and sound, walking out of the Red Clear Pavilion's private room. Basically, he could confirm it. The relationship between Yi Qing Luo and the Red Clear Pavilion was not shallow. Xiao Yinyan was a little surprised. Not only did Yi Qing Luo have a close relationship with the Hell Palace, now, even the Red Clear Pavilion had contacted them. Luo, did the Red Clarity Pavilion make things difficult for you? Pei Sheng asked worriedly. Yi Qing Luo shook her head. I'm fine. I'm old friends with the Red Clear Pavilion's Pavilion Master. Go to the private room and wait first. If there's anything else, come over to this private room to look for me. Red Clear Pavilion's people won't dare to stop you. You're not coming back to the private room with us? Xiao Yinyan frowned. Chapter 36-68. Xiao Yinyan's brows creased even tighter as his gaze towards Yi Qing Luo was filled with deep thoughts. Yi Qing Luo smiled at him. During the auction, mysterious maiden might make a move, so be careful. The two of them wanted to say something. But looking at Yi Qing Luo's gaze, they didn't say anything in the end. After sending the two of them back to the cabin, Yi Qing Luo then returned to Zhu Wuxian's cabin. Old Lai chased after her as he hollered, "Ask that whatever pavilion master from Red Clear Pavilion to come out and battle with me. He dares to snatch the person whom I want to protect." This clamor attracted the attention of even more people. Some of them were even more curious about Yi Qing Luo's identity. Xiao Yinyan and Pei Shang tried their best to persuade Old Lai to return. Hearing the holler behind her, Yi Qing Luo sighed helplessly. She had just stepped into the room. Between her nostrils, an elegant plum fragrance entered her nostrils. The young man's fingers moved as he stretched out towards the young lady. This time, the young lady was long prepared. Just as the plum fragrance assailed her nostrils, her figure had already agilely evaded to the side. The young man's hands hugged empty air. His hands froze in midair as he suddenly laughed lightly. "I thought you wouldn't come over." Yi Qing Luo walked to the chair by the side and sat down as she lifted the curtain in front and looked at the scene of the auction on the first floor. "I promised you, so naturally I will come over." Zhu Wuxian slowly walked to her side as his voice was slightly hoarse. "You also promised to become my wife, but in the end, didn't you still go back on your words?" Yi Qing Luo pursed her lips. She couldn't possibly say that the person who promised to marry him wasn't her. Zhu Wuxian didn't continue to harp on this topic as he sat beside Yi Qing Luo. "Hell Palace's people seem to value you very much. Since when were you able to subdue that bunch of lunatics from Hell Palace?" The design of the second floor's cabin was extremely ingenious. Even if the covering curtain was lifted from all directions, including the first floor of the auction, no one was able to see clearly who the person in the cabin was. But even if they couldn't see the person in the cabin clearly, Yi Qing Luo also noticed that most of the people present were looking towards the direction of this cabin. Evidently, they were trying to guess exactly who from the Red Clarity Pavilion had come to the auction. Yi Qing Luo leaned back on the chair as she glanced sideways at the person beside her. "Old Lai is just returning a favor." She paused for a moment before continuing. "Moreover, the Underworld Palace isn't as complicated as you think it is. Their thoughts are relatively simple. As long as you treat them with the same simple attitude, they naturally won't go crazy over a single disagreement. That's only for you." Zhu Wuxian smiled as he shook his head. Even the Red Clarity Pavilion might not dare to fight with the Hell Palace. However, looking at the attitude of that person from the Hell Palace, I'm afraid a fight is unavoidable. "I won't," Yi Qing Luo replied confidently. "Old Lai knows that you're my friend, so he's just grumbling a little." "Friend." Chu Wuxin chuckled and muttered these two words. His tone seemed to be mocking and self-deprecating. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flickered slightly, but she still didn't say a word. He just quietly looked down at the sea of people at the scene. After the matter of the hall master being attracted by the treasure gathering, the crowd was even more bustling than before. Quite a number of people were secretly trying to find out about Di Luo's identity. She didn't say a word. Zhu Wuxian didn't open his mouth as well. The two of them just remained silent. Yi Qing Luo looked at the first floor. The Hall of Nimbleness is just a legend in the Earth domain, but even the firmament knows of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion. The implication was that the Ling Long Palace simply could not be compared to the Red Clear Pavilion. They were simply not on the same level. However, Yi Qing Luo didn't let down her guard. Don't belittle a woman's jealousy. When a woman goes crazy, she might not even care about her own life. A hint of coldness flashed across Zhu Wuxin's eyes. "That mystic fairy, right?" There was a hint of killing intent in his tone. Yi Qing Luo glanced sideways at him. "This matter, I can settle it. Don't interfere." Since even the God Realm was aware of the power of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion, this was enough to prove that Zhu Wuxin's status was above the Earth Realm. Every realm had its own balance. If Zhu Wuxin attacked, he would destroy the balance in the land. Chapter 3670. Yiqing Luo didn't want this matter to blow up. That's true. You like to settle your own enemies. Zhu Wuxian seemed to have thought of something as he laughed out loud. Yiqing Luo took another look at him and didn't say a word as she turned her gaze back onto the auction house. The beautifying ointment had been promoted for the past 2 days. Basically, all the female customers present were all here for the beautifying ointment. Which lady didn't want to be beautiful? Which lady didn't wish for her skin to be as fair as snow? As the saying goes, whiteness can cover 100 ugliness. As long as she used the beautifying ointment to make herself younger and prettier, becoming even more beautiful and alluring. Who didn't want this magical ointment? The number of crystal stones in the auction increased by 10,000 by 10,000. Later on, it simply increased by 100,000 by 100,000. In just a short moment, it had already increased to 700,000 crystal stones. This price made all the representatives in the auction hall felt their hearts churning as they were unable to calm down. It also made all the bidders drew in a breath of cold air. This small bottle of ointment. It was actually auctioned to the highest price in the entire auction. Many of the male customers who were bidding crazily for the divine weapons, profound energy-raising pills, etc., were all shocked silly by this scene. Originally, they thought that their bidding was already crazy enough. Now looking at this group of ladies, as though they had gone mad, totally not caring about the crystal stones as they kept increasing the price. They only had one thought in their minds. This group of women had gone mad. This also made numerous businessmen saw a business opportunity. Speaking of which, it was much easier to earn crystal stones from women than men. In the end, the first bottle of beautifying ointment was directly auctioned off at the price of 1,300,000 crystal stones. Many ladies were forcefully stopped by the people around them from continuing to shout. There were also some ladies who were thinking, and based on the beautifying ointment, now the price was very high. Later, when they were tired of shouting, the price would definitely drop. When that beautifying ointment was sold at 1,300,000 crystal stones, it was exchanged with the bidder. Then the next auction item was opened. Only, after the auction of the beautifying ointment, everyone's enthusiasm was almost depleted. They were all immersed in the fact that the price of the beautifying ointment had exceeded the total amount of all the items in the auction hall. Because of this, the auction for this item wasn't that intense. Everyone's emotions were still lingering on the beautifying cream. When a woman who won the bid for the beauty cream was about to leave the venue with it, he was surrounded by a large group of women. The women did not want to snatch the beautifying cream by force. After all, the hall master of the Linglong Palace was present. They were not crazy enough to ignore the rules. They stared at the beautifying cream with hope in their eyes. Miss, can you apply the beautifying cream in public for us to see? We want to witness the amazing effect of the beauty cream with our own eyes. These words were not some crafty plot. Instead, they were done on purpose. It was because most of the women did not see the effects of the beauty cream at the treasure-gathering site yesterday. I've only heard of it. Therefore, most of the women wanted to witness the effects of the beauty cream with their own eyes. The woman who had received the beauty cream had a look of terror on her face. She looked left and right at the frenzied women surrounding her, and she subconsciously wanted to turn around and flee the auction. He was surrounded by a group of women. He forced her to use the beauty cream in front of everyone. Chapter 3671. This scene was seen clearly by Yiqing Luo, who was sitting on the second floor. Her lips curled up as her long and narrow eyes squinted as she looked at the lady who was surrounded by everyone. She couldn't help but laugh softly. She probably doesn't know that once a woman goes crazy, it's very scary. Zhu Wuxian glanced at the direction of the second floor indifferently as his gaze shifted back to Yiqing Luo's face. His emotions were very indifferent as his voice was deep and calm. The her you're talking about should be referring to not that lady who successfully bid for it, right? Yiqing Luo raised her brows. You can tell. Very obvious. Zhu Wuxian replied calmly. That lady is not the one who really bid for the beauty cream. If the beauty cream was really bid for by that lady, under so many envious gazes from so many ladies. Any woman would have an involuntary sense of arrogance. In the auction, there was no need to worry about any safety issues. She could totally show off the beauty bomb that she had won in the auction to everyone. But that lady's face didn't reveal any arrogance or complacency. There was only fear and uneasiness. Zhu Wuxian continued. The one who really bid for the beauty cream should be that mysterious maiden. You can guess it? Yiqing Luo was astonished. Are you sure that you just came to Without Embroiling City today? The news of your bet with that Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden has already spread like wildfire. It's hard for me not to know about it. Zhu Wuxian's voice was very indifferent, but it was rare for him to say such a long sentence in one breath. Yiqing Luo didn't know if she believed him or had no interest to continue this topic. She propped her chin as she lazily leaned against the back of the chair and laughed lightly. Xiao Yulu will not be willing to lose to me. Even if it's because of that face of hers, she will not be willing. Speaking of this, her voice paused slightly. Her lips suddenly curled into a cold arc. She dared to bid for my beauty cream at a high price. That's enough to show that she has the confidence to take out something that can compete with the beauty cream. Xiao Yulu wanted the beauty cream, but she would absolutely not spend a huge sum to bid for it herself. She would absolutely not want to personally push the treasure gathering to the best trading house position. So, either Xiao Yulu wanted to snatch a few bottles of beauty cream first and control the bidding amount, then think of a way to let the trading house surpass the treasure gathering. Either Xiao Yulu was absolutely confident that she could surpass her. Yiqing Luo slowly narrowed her long and narrow eyes as a glint flashed past her eyes. Her curiosity was piqued. Yesterday, Xiao Yulu was still flustered and exasperated. Why was he so confident today? Last night, after hearing her opinion, Xiao Yinyin would probably keep a close eye on Xiao Yulu. If Xiao Yulu contacted the black-robed men who had set up the soul-devouring formation again, those secret guards who were secretly observing Xiao Yulu would definitely notice something unusual. If it wasn't for those men in black that gave Xiao Yulu so much confidence, Xiao Yulu wouldn't have been so confident. Then, where did Xiao Yulu's confidence come from? Do you need my help to investigate? Zhu Wuxian seemed to have seen through Yiqing Luo's thoughts as he asked calmly. Yiqing Luo raised her head slightly. Her fair fingers brushed across her smooth chin. She smiled and tilted her head. If you help me investigate, won't I owe you another favor? If you want to return it, then accompany me for a period of time after the auction ends. Zhu Wuxian's gaze was deep as he stared at her. However, when the 8th bottle of beauty ointment was sold at the price of 6 million crystal stones, the women began to panic, especially the last bottle of beauty cream. Almost all the women went crazy. The women had indeed gone mad. The people in charge of the other trading houses all looked at the women who were screaming their lungs out as if they were crazy. What kind of stimulation did these girls suffer? Even if the beautifying cream really had the miraculous effect of making an ugly woman beautiful, even so, there was no need to be so crazy, right? Spending so many crystal stones on a bottle of ointment? It would be better to buy more pills to increase his strength. Wasn't it said that the strong were respected and that strength was supreme? Was a face that important? At the same time, in a private room on the 2nd floor. Chapter 3673. The leader of Zhongxing trading firm stood behind Xiao Yulu with a pale face. Beads of cold sweat rolled down his head. Even the back of his black brocade robe was soaked by a pool of water. When he heard someone shout, 100 million crystal stones from below, he could not help but laugh. His entire body was trembling. Princess Yulu. Princess Yulu, you really can't shout anymore. He tried to persuade her with a trembling voice. The beauty ointment is something from treasure gathering. We are already close to 400 million crystals away from treasure gathering. Most importantly, this 400 million difference. Furthermore, this gap was created by their Princess Yulu. The leader really couldn't understand. Why did Princess Yulu insist on getting all 10 bottles of beauty ointment? Could it be that Princess Yulu had forgotten about her bet with treasure gathering? Did Princess Yulu not care about the consequences of losing the bet? Will the gap shrink if I don't continue to shout? Xiao Yulu looked at the leader coldly, her eyes full of killing intent. The leader's legs turned to jelly. I didn't mean that. But, the leader really wanted to say, if she didn't insist on bidding for the beauty ointment, the price of the beauty ointment would definitely not be so many times higher. However, the leader didn't dare to say that. He could only hold back his tears and said with a trembling voice, We don't have enough crystals. If we continue to bid, we might not be able to take out so many crystals. If you don't have them, go to other trading firms to get them. In short, I want all these beauty ointment. Xiao Yulu's fingers were on the table. Her sharp fingernails left streaks of marks on the surface of the table. The leader's face was pale. On one side, he was worried, but on the other side, he was so happy that he almost screamed out loud. Pei Sheng couldn't believe that the beauty ointment would be auctioned off at such a high price. Now, their treasure-gathering trading firm was sitting on the throne of the highest number of bids. Brother Qiao, am I dreaming? Hearing the bid of 100 million crystal stones, Yang Kai felt a chill run down his spine. Pei Sheng had already gone crazy. He clenched his fists, unable to believe his eyes and ears. But when he turned around, he saw Qiao Yinyan's serious expression. The agitation on his face eased a little. He pursed his lips and sat beside Qiao Yinyan. Brother Qiao, are you still worried about Aluo? Qiao Yinyan looked up and glanced at him before lowering his eyes again. Brother Qiao. Pei Sheng sensed that Qiao Yinyan's expression was very grave, and he started to panic. I'm not worried about Aluo, Qiao Yinyan said indifferently. Then why did you? His face was heavy, as if something big was about to happen. Of course, Pei Sheng didn't ask the rest of the question. Qiao Yinyan placed his hands on the railing and leaned over to look at the crazy scene on the first floor. He frowned slightly and said, I have a very uneasy feeling. What? Pei Sheng asked. Qiao Yinyan shook his head. The beauty ointment auction went too smoothly, so smoothly that I can't help but overthink. He lowered his head slightly, and his eyes darkened. There was a bottomless whirlpool in his eyes. Yiqing Luo and Chu Wu Xian could tell the problem. Xiao Yinyan naturally could tell as well. The ladies who had successfully bid for the beauty ointment one after another weren't the ones who had bid for it. After they bid for it, who would they bring the beauty ointment to? Xiao Yinyan guessed correctly. Outsiders didn't know that Xiao Yulu's looks were ruined. Chapter 3674. So Xiao Yulu had a huge need for the beauty cream. So these beauty cream, on the surface, were successfully auctioned by those ladies. In actual fact, these beauty cream would eventually end up in Xiao Yulu's hands. Now the amount of treasure gatherings transaction had obviously exceeded Zhongcheng's by over 10 times. For her own face, Xiao Yulu really didn't care about the bet with Yiqing Luo. No, Xiao Yinyan instantly rejected this thought. With Xiao Yulu's arrogance, she would absolutely not ignore the bet. There was no way she would embarrass herself as the Empyrean fairy in public. Xiao Yinyan felt that. Xiao Yulu might still have some tricks up her sleeves. This move to treasure gathering, or Yiqing Luo. What consequences would it cause? The more he thought about it, the more uneasy Xiao Yinyan felt. Zhu Wu Xian's cabin. Yiqing Luo yawned as she stretched herself. Looks like the auction is about to end. This is the last bottle of beauty cream. Zhu Wu Xian's voice was calm. Will you wait for the final result before leaving this place? Wait, of course I will wait. Yiqing Luo's brows rose slightly as she glanced sideways at Zhu Wu Xian. I still have a bet with Xiao Yulu. Before the result is out, she might not let me leave. The corners of Zhu Wuxin's mouth twitched slightly as he smiled. From your tone, do you think that you won't be able to win the bet with her this time? She hasn't released her big move, so I can't judge it easily. Yiqing Luo shrugged. Zhu Wu Xian, big move. Yiqing Luo narrowed her eyes as her fingers caressed the ring on her fingertip. Of course. I'm also waiting for her big move to arrive." She laughed softly. Her gaze shot toward the auction house below. The radiance and deep meaning flowing in her eyes was extremely obvious. She shifted her gaze away. He ignored Chu Wuxin's slightly cold expression beside him. That pair of dull dark eyes revealed a biting, cold, murderous intent. While the two of them were conversing, the last bottle of beauty cream was successfully auctioned at the price of 123 million crystals. Everyone was shocked. All of their gazes towards Treasure Gathering's cabin had changed. Almost everyone was certain of it. The auction fair this time, Treasure Gathering Assembly took the top spot. This was beyond doubt. Who would have thought that Treasure Gathering would be at the bottom for 4 consecutive years? After climbing up a tall branch, there would be such earth-shattering changes. Everyone was both envious and jealous. This was simply a heaven-defying reversal. Just when everyone was envious of the treasures trading firm and felt sorry for the Zhong Chang trading firm, the auctioneer's voice became extremely excited. Next up, it's time for the last auction item. A good auctioneer's emotions could move people's hearts. When the auctioneer's passionate and excited voice rang out, most people's attention was drawn there. Even during the bidding for the beautifying cream, the auctioneer had never been so excited. Everyone was naturally very curious. What exactly was the finale item of the auction? There was a hubbub of voices and endless discussions. The auctioneer raised the hammer in his hand high up. This is the last auction item. It is the auction item from Zhong Chang Exchange, which has been the best trading house in the land domain for 4 consecutive years. After the auctioneer finished speaking, it instantly caused an uproar in the surroundings. According to the rules, in the auction, every auction item which came from which trading firm was a secret. As the auction's resident auctioneer, how could he possibly not know this rule? Chapter 3675. This meant that the auctioneer was obviously from Zhong Chang Trading Hall. No, to put it more accurately, it was Xiao Yulu's people. Yiqing Luo was also stunned by the auctioneer's actions. Her half-squinted eyes were filled with a faintly discernible sense of ridicule. Her pink lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. The auctioneer's risky actions. Apparently, he had obtained City Lord Lu, or the Executive Elder, Hall Master, etc. support. Otherwise, the auctioneer absolutely wouldn't be so daring. As expected, Xiao Yulu was secretly accumulating her strength for a big move. Yiqing Luo was also very curious about what was the last item to be traded in Zhongchang Trading Hall. Angry, Zhu Wuxian looked at Yiqing Luo's expression as he said calmly, "Those who don't know the rules can disappear from this world." Yiqing Luo rolled her eyes at him. "Why should I be angry?" She raised her finger and caressed her lower jaw as she laughed lightly. As everyone knows, the beautifying ointment is the item that the Treasures Trading Hall is participating in the auction. Now, the auctioneer has revealed the name of Zhong Chang Trading Hall, so it's very fair. Chu Wuxian's gaze was calm, and so was his tone, "But I'm angry." "Huh?" Yiqing Luo turned her head over as she looked at him in puzzlement. Chu Wuxian met her eyes as he said word by word, "I'm very angry that someone bullied you in front of me." Yiqing Luo. Zhu Wuxian's flirting skills were getting smoother and smoother. Words of love could actually be said so smoothly. Yiqing Luo continued to roll her eyes at him as she shifted her gaze away. "Just watch the show properly. Don't interfere." Zhu Wuxian's thin lips pursed tightly as the lines on his face gradually turned cold and hard. In the auction hall, facing the various discussions below the stage, the auctioneer turned a deaf ear to it. His tone was agitated as he continued excitedly, "I believe that once this auction item is brought out, it will absolutely make everyone scream until they lose their voices." Suddenly, he slammed the hammer heavily onto the table. "Everyone, open your eyes wide now. Bring the last auction item up to the auction stage." Following the auctioneer's words, 2 sturdy bodyguards carried an item which was covered with black satin as they walked up the auction stage. The bodyguards carefully placed the item down. Then, He lifted the table off the stage. The thing covered in black satin was fully displayed in front of everyone's eyes. The auctioneer's eyes were filled with fanaticism as he looked at the item. He slowly walked to the front of the satin, pulled a corner of the black satin, and shouted enthusiastically, "Now, it's time to witness a miracle." The auctioneer used some force to remove the silk. It was a rectangular, tightly closed wooden box. The exterior of the box was engraved with extremely complicated patterns and totems. It looked very solemn. Just by looking at the outer appearance of the wooden box, everyone felt a heavy pressure in their hearts. The auctioneer was almost kneeling on the ground. His hands were almost worshipping as he traced the outline of the wooden chest through the air. The crazed look in his eyes, it didn't seem like he was faking it. The auctioneer's expression piqued the crowd's interest in the items in the wooden boxes. "What do you think is in that box?" Yiqing Luo raised her brows and asked. Zhu Wuxin stared at the box, his expression changing slightly. "I can't sense it, but I feel that it's not something good." Chapter 3676. Keeping people in suspense was also very particular. The auctioneer was able to stay in the auction for a long time. Naturally, he had his unique skills. After attracting everyone's curiosity, the auctioneer opened the wooden box with a crazy expression at the most appropriate time. Everyone stretched their necks and looked at the thing in the wooden box. After the wooden chest was opened, there was no dazzling golden light or dazzling golden light. Everyone could clearly see that in the wooden box, there was a huge, oval white egg. That's right, it was an egg. Everyone was a little confused. There were thousands of thoughts in their minds and a lot of guesses. But they did not expect that in the wooden box, there was a white egg. Why was the auctioneer so excited about an egg? This egg, what kind of egg was it? Everyone's heart was full of doubts and puzzlement. The auctioneer's eyes were full of obsession, staring closely at the huge white egg in the wooden box, saying word by word, "That's right. You're not wrong. This is an egg. But do you know what kind of egg this is?" Looking at everyone's puzzled expression and the way they shook their heads and answered no, the auctioneer suddenly laughed. Eggs are usually the continuation of life. This egg is the mother beast giving birth to a young beast. What beast is it? So mysterious? It looks like it should be a beast egg above the level of a phantom beast. Master auctioneer, don't keep us guessing. What kind of beast egg is that? Everyone's interest was also aroused, and they asked aloud. The auctioneer laughed and spread out his hands, his voice excited and inspiring. "This is a dragon egg." "Dragon? Did I hear that right? Dragon egg?" "Master auctioneer, you said this is a dragon egg? Don't tell me inside that egg is a young dragon." "No, it can't be dragon egg. How could there be a dragon egg here?" Whether it was in the Nirvana realm or the Earth realm, for dragons, in the ears of everyone, they were all myths. The dragon race was indeed too rare, and dragons also represented the absolute symbol of noble status. This was actually a dragon egg? Didn't that mean if anyone could slap this dragon egg back, they would be able to do so? After the young dragon was born, whoever would be able to form a contract with this young dragon and then become a master of the dragon. Everyone's hearts were boiling with excitement. Each and every one of them stared at the giant white egg with the same fanaticism as the auctioneer. When Yiqing Luo heard the auctioneer's words, she couldn't help but raise her slender brows. Interested, Zhu Wuxian was extremely attentive towards the changes in Yiqing Luo's expression. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly. "Look at me. Do I look like someone who would be interested in other dragons?" No one had ever seen a dragon before, but not only did he become brothers with the humanoid dragon, he had also formed a contract with the head of the 4 great divine beasts, the Azure Dragon, which was also the leader of the dragons, the dragon ancestor. There was also a pet that was half dragon and half leopard. For the other dragons, she did not feel that kind of surprise at all. Zhu Wuxin said indifferently, "It's a little strange that the Sincerity Trading House can take out a dragon egg. I have imagined many rare treasures, but I never thought that Zhongcheng's ultimate move would be a dragon egg. Yiqing Luo sighed helplessly. From everyone's expressions, it's obvious that they are extremely interested in the dragon egg. How could he not be interested? Who didn't want to contract a dragon as their battle pet? To be able to tame a dragon. That wasn't just in terms of ability, it would be of great help and upgrade to oneself. Chapter 3677. His battle pet was a dragon. Wouldn't he look good if he said it out? If you don't want Zhongcheng to win, I can destroy that dragon egg. Zhu Wu Xian raised his hand as he placed it in front of Yiqing Luo. He didn't touch Yiqing Luo's face. Only through the air, he gently traced Yiqing Luo's brows. His voice was very calm, and there was no deeper meaning in his words. You're wrinkled here. It doesn't look good. I don't like it. Yiqing Luo, again. When did this iceberg man become so understanding? He even knew how to imitate the way the auctioneer caressed the dragon egg and caressed her from afar, although it was not touched by Zhu Wuxin. But Yiqing Luo's heart still had a creepy feeling. She rubbed her arms and took a few steps back. Don't mess around. Who doesn't know that you and I are in cahoots? If you destroy the dragon egg, isn't that telling everyone that I'm doing this for the sake of winning the bet? Just as Yiqing Luo retreated, Chu Wuxin also withdrew his hand. He lightly said, I just don't want to see you unhappy. Watch the show, don't stare at me. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and blocked his gaze. Then, he turned his gaze back to the dragon egg. Xiao Yulu has put in a lot of effort to prepare such a great show. If I don't take a good look, I'll be letting her down. Down below, everyone went crazy because of the dragon egg. This kind of crazy energy. It was exactly the same as the beautifying cream he had just seen. Many people from other factions were secretly rejoicing that their wives and daughters had failed to win the facial beautifying cream. Otherwise, how would they have any crystals left to bid for the dragon eggs? Compared to the dragon egg, what kind of beauty ointment was trash? Seeing the enthusiasm of the crowd, the auctioneer smiled more confidently. He raised the hammer in his hand again, spread out one hand, pointed at the dragon egg, and said, Now, the auction for the dragon egg will begin. The starting price is 100 million spar, and each increment must be no less than 10 million spar. I hereby announce that the bidding begins now. 100 million crystals, and not less than 10 million crystals each time. This was probably the first time in the history of the auction that an item had such a high base price. It had simply set a record for the lowest bid in an auction. But this base price did not extinguish the enthusiasm of the crowd. On the contrary, it made everyone even more excited. After all, this was a dragon egg. Do you know what a dragon egg is? It would be a divine beast the moment it was born. Just a breath of air could cause 3 tremors. The higher the base price, the more it could prove the authenticity of this dragon egg. When the auctioneer finished speaking, someone had already begun to bid crazily. 101 million spar. 150 million spar. The bidding trend was no less than that of the beautifying ointment earlier. No, it was even worse. This bid was much crazier than the beautifying cream. The highest bid for a bottle of beautifying ointment was more than 100 million crystal stones. As for this dragon egg, it was worth 100 million, 100 million, 200 million spar. I bid 250 million, 300 million. This bid was going straight up. In the end, only the representatives of the major forces were left, and they refused to give way to each other. When the price of a dragon egg had already reached 400 million crystal stones, the people on treasure gathering side were all panicking. Pei Sheng stood rooted to the ground, and his face was filled with disbelief. Chapter 3678. Bam! A loud sound was heard, and the table in the private room shattered into pieces. Old Lai's face was filled with anger as he rolled up his sleeves. I'm going to smash that dragon egg. He was aggressive and was about to leap over the railing to the first floor to stir up trouble. Xiao Yin reacted quickly and immediately pulled Old Lai back. Senior, Don't be rash. I'm calmer than ever. Old Lai glared at him. Xiao Yinyan didn't let go. Senior, if you smash that dragon egg, do you think everyone will push the blame to the Hell Palace or Aluo? Old Lai's figure suddenly stiffened. Public opinion. Of course they would push it to Yi Qing Luo. No one dared to blame the Hell Palace. They would only feel that his actions were all instigated by Yi Qing Luo. If he really destroyed the dragon egg, the one who would bear the consequences would be Yi Qing Luo. Old Lai clenched his fists tightly as he endured his impulse and gritted his teeth. Then what should we do now? A lousy dragon egg had actually soared to such a high amount, plus the auction items in the Middle City's exchange hall. It was only a matter of time before it surpassed the total amount of the treasure. Wait and see. Xiao Yinyan couldn't think of any other way. The auction for the dragon egg had already started. Destroying the dragon egg, stopping the auction, and so on were all unrealistic. Wait for the amount over at Zhongcheng to exceed the treasure? Old Lai was furious. You're the eldest young master of the Qiao family. Don't you know anything about Zhongcheng having a dragon egg? Xiao Yinyan's face suddenly darkened. He pursed his lips tightly as he shook his head. Looking at Zhongcheng's exchange hall, when they brought out the dragon egg as the last auction item, he was also very shocked. Not only him, even Patriarch Xiao would feel surprised. Xiao Yilu was able to quietly hide it from everyone and bring the dragon egg to the auction. How on earth did she do it? Based on Xiao Yilu's character, if she had the dragon egg, she would absolutely not allow Yi Qing Luo to suppress her. She would definitely bring out the dragon egg to suppress the beauty cream's limelight. But Xiao Yilu didn't make a sound. Did Xiao Yilu look like someone who would keep her grievances in her stomach? Xiao Yinyan's heart grew heavier. He felt that many things were starting to get out of his control. In Zhu Wuxin's private room, there's still a gap of about 200 million crystals. Zhu Wuxian looked at Yi Qing Luo as his lips curled into a faint smile. According to this trend, it's only a matter of time before Zhongcheng surpasses Congregate Bao. Yi Qing Luo propped up her chin and raised her long and narrow eyebrows. From your tone, it seems like you have a way to solve the problem. There's indeed a way. Zhu Wuxin met her eyes. I will bid for the dragon egg. Everyone knew that his private room was the private room of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion's pavilion master. If he was the one to bid, this also represented the Hongqing Pavilion's bid. Even if the profound practitioners of the major cities wanted to obtain the dragon egg like crazy, he definitely wouldn't dare to fight with the Hongqing Pavilion's pavilion master. Once Zhu Wuxin opened his mouth to bid, whoever opened their mouth would be going against the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion. The price would naturally stop at the amount given by Zhu Wuxin. In this way, the total amount of Zhongcheng's auction would absolutely not be able to exceed Congregate Bao's total amount. This is indeed a good idea. Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly when she heard that. Chapter 3679. Yi Qing Luo's eyes gradually deepened, appearing extremely serene. But, in Without Embroiling City, he had lost his integrity as a businessman. Yi Qing Luo retracted her gaze. The radiance in her eyes was suffused with a faint brilliance. I can't possibly leave such a mess for him to clean up. He is a very good businessman. Zhu Wuxian didn't shift his gaze because she shifted her gaze. His eyes were fixed on Yi Qing Luo's face. He took in Yi Qing Luo's expression and the flickering in her eyes. He gave a low laugh. His voice was magnetic and very alluring. It's indeed you. As long as you are willing to treat someone sincerely, you will think for the other party. Yi Qing Luo didn't reply him. However, Zhu Wuxin merely chuckled to himself. You agreed to accompany me during the auction because you have already acknowledged me as a friend in your heart, right? He was laughing, but his tone revealed a trace of self-ridicule. Are you feeling heartache for me, or feeling guilty towards me, towards your feelings? Yi Qing Luo's eyelashes trembled slightly. Her eyelids drooped slightly. Her pink lips moved as though she wanted to say something. But in the end, she still didn't say anything. Between the two of them, it fell into silence again. Below, in the auction hall, the enthusiasm was soaring. The shouting of prices was still rising. The auctioneer continued to drive the rhythm, bringing the rhythm of the bidding to a new height. At this moment, the price of the dragon egg had already reached 400 million crystals. 400 million crystals. To a large powerhouse, it was already very strenuous. And now, those who were still participating in the auction were only those few large powerhouses from various main cities. Even City Lord Liu, as well as the representatives from the other two main cities, also participated in the auction. But for 100 million crystals, if they really took out so many crystals at one go, to their current powerhouse's development, it would definitely have an impact. And they still had to go to the second division's forces to raise money. It was very easy to shake the powerhouse's foundations. But the various powerhouses' representatives had another thought. To be able to obtain a dragon egg, to hatch a dragon battle pet, which belonged to them, it would definitely be able to let their own powerhouses to go up another level. By then, the other powerhouses of the same level would have to give face to the dragon battle pet and take a step back. Thinking like this, no matter how much their hearts ached, there were still a few representatives who raised their bidding cards with trembling hands. After a series of exchanges, at the later stages, the increase in price was getting smaller and smaller. In the end, only 5 forces were left, and they were still struggling. This dragon egg was auctioned off for a sky-high price. The gap between Zhong Cheng and Zhu Bao's total amount was also getting closer and closer. The forces that had given up on bidding were also filled with anxiety. They were guessing who could obtain this dragon egg. There were also many people who looked at the private room of the treasure-gathering hall and sighed regretfully. No one had expected this. In the end, the Zhongqing trading house would bring out such a dragon egg, which directly suppressed the heat of the beauty cream. Dragon egg, once hatched, that was a genuine mythological beast. It could fight, assist, and even act as a mount. Who gets this dragon egg? In the future, there would be changes in the powers of the 3 main cities. Until the price of the dragon egg reached 500 million crystal stones, the difference between the 2 trading houses had already shrunk to a negligible amount. All of a sudden, the atmosphere of the auction became heavy. Chapter 3680. It was also because they were anxious about who would get the best honor in the auction. At least 80% of the people had bet a huge amount of crystals on the bet between Mysterious Fairy and Di Luo. They were all waiting quietly for the final result. By now, the people who were bidding were only Shadowless City's #1 family's representative, City Lord Liu, and Yen-less City Lord's forces who were still struggling. The bidding speed of the 3 parties had clearly slowed down. They were all carefully testing each other's bottom line. Just at this moment, the auctioneer suddenly raised his voice. Those forces who still want to participate in the dragon egg auction must be sincere in bidding for the dragon egg. I'll make the decision here. Those who want to continue bidding can come to the front and observe the dragon egg up close. Up close. Being in close contact with the dragon egg, these words made the crowd cry out in shock. Those 3 forces who were originally in a dilemma about whether to continue bidding or not, their hearts started to churn again. There were also a few people who had given up on bidding, and they also stood up. About 6 people approached the auction stage. When Yiqing Luo saw this, her slender brows rose as she was slightly astonished. That auctioneer. I feel that something's not right. Previously, he disregarded the auction's regulations and directly stated that the dragon egg was Zhongcheng Exchange's auction item. Now he made his own decision to let the bidders go up close to the auction stage to observe the auction item. This didn't conform to the auction's regulations, right? But no matter if it was the executive elder or the hall master, no one spoke out to stop him. Looking at those people as they neared the auction stage, Yiqing Luo's heart unknowingly surged with a strange feeling, inexplicable uneasiness. In order to bid for the dragon egg to be auctioned at a higher price, to let the bidders be in close contact, it will amplify their desire for the dragon egg. Chu Wuxan didn't find it strange at all. Yi-Ching Luo shook her head. No, no. She felt something was amiss, but she couldn't tell what was wrong. Just like this, those 6 forces representatives walked up to the auction stage. Both their eyes stared intently at that huge white dragon egg in the wooden box. Someone wanted to stretch out his hand to touch it, but the auctioneer grabbed his wrist. You can observe, but you absolutely cannot touch it. This dragon egg is about to hatch. If you touch it and cause the dragon egg to crack prematurely, that would be bad. The auctioneer's words sounded like persuasion. However, the representatives' eyes lit up when they heard this. The 6 of them surrounded the wooden box and squatted down. His eyes were fixed on the giant egg, as if he wanted to see through the eggshell to see the divine dragon beast hidden within the giant egg. I'll add 10 million spar. A representative raised his hand, clenched his teeth, and shouted. The dragon egg was about to hatch. They had to quickly auction off the dragon egg. Only then could he form a contract with the young dragon the moment the dragon egg hatched. Otherwise, once the dragon egg hatched, it would possess the strength of a dragon. It would be troublesome for them to form a contract with it. The people from the other forces had obviously thought of this as well. Hearing the increase in price, he immediately followed up. Another round of fierce fighting ensued. In the eyes of the crowd, the auctioneer let several bidders run to the auction stage. It was to entice them to continue bidding. But the more Yi-Ching Luo looked, the more flustered she felt. Her eyebrows tightly knit together. The restlessness in his heart grew stronger and stronger. Crack! Chapter 3681. Yi-Ching Luo's brows moved as she glanced sideways at Zhu Wuxian. Did you hear something? What? Zhu Wuxian turned his head to look at her, not understanding the meaning of her words. This expression meant that he didn't hear anything. Strange, under such a clamorous atmosphere. Why did she seem to have heard the sound of something cracking? Surveying the surroundings, it seemed as though no one else had heard that cracking sound. What was that sound? Yi-Ching Luo's heart, because of that subtle sound, became even more apprehensive and uneasy. Last, something's not right. I sensed a gush of intense in-chi. In her mind, old man Song's panicky and solemn voice rang. Yi-Ching Luo's breathing froze slightly. It seemed that the inexplicable feeling that had welled up in her heart was not an illusion. But really, something big was about to happen. Yi-Ching Luo's slender fingers clenched tightly. Where did that sound come from? What was it that made her feel uneasy and had a bad premonition? What was it? Suddenly, she seemed to have thought of something as she abruptly raised her head and looked straight at the auction stage. If she didn't remember wrongly, it seemed to be when the auctioneer invited the bidders to observe the dragon egg from a close distance. Her heart seemed to have foreseen some danger as a strange feeling started to spread, which meant to say, the problem was on the auction stage. What's the matter? Zhu Wuxian noticed the change in Yi-Ching Luo's emotions, as well as her entire aura, had turned severe. What happened? Something happened. Yi-Ching Luo pursed her pink lips as she replied with 3 words. Her gaze swept past the auction stage inch by inch. Just when she saw a spot, her pupils suddenly constricted. Oh no! Yi-Ching Luo's eyes widened as she looked at that spot in disbelief. Immediately after, without waiting for Zhu Wuxian to ask, she had already stood up, and with a leap, she stepped onto the railing. Leaping down from the 2nd floor, she rushed towards the auction stage. Quickly move aside. That's not a dragon egg. Following Yi-Ching Luo's words, a crack sound was heard. In the wooden box, the huge white egg suddenly cracked into pieces of eggshell. Then, a dragon head the size of a fist poked out from the top of the eggshell. The dragon's head was white, and the dragon horns on its head were like white jade, sparkling and translucent. It looked small and cute. Dragon. The dragon has hatched. Hurry, let the dragon see me. Beasts are very reliant on the first person they see. The young dragon is born. Quick, snatch the young dragons. When the dragon head entered everyone's sight, everyone went crazy. Even the episode where Yi Ching Luo suddenly rushed out and shouted, "That's not a dragon egg," was all thrown to the back of his head. One by one, they swarmed towards the dragon egg. Yi Ching Luo's heart sank as she spoke out once again, "Don't go over, that's not a dragon." However, the frenzied crowd totally didn't listen to Yi Ching Luo's words. He just wanted to rush to the front and be the first person the young dragon saw when it opened its eyes. As long as he was acknowledged by the young dragon. I don't care what price you bid. Now that the dragon whelp had acknowledged him, no one could snatch it away. Everyone had overlooked that auctioneer who was originally standing on the auction stage had no intention to stop everyone. Instead, he silently disappeared in front of everyone's eyes. Whereas, in the midst of the crowd, that dragon head poked out as it slowly opened its eyes. Chapter 3682. Behind him, someone was tearing at his body. Because of this, the wooden box kept shaking. The oval-shaped, half-broken dragon egg was swaying back and forth. The white dragon's head was also swaying back and forth, just as the fingers of the city lord of Yin City were about to be torn off. The white dragon suddenly opened its eyes. At first glance, it met the eyes of the city lord of Yin City. The people of Yama Free City Lord faction were so ecstatic that they almost screamed out loud. When the white dragon opened its eyes, the rest of the people rushed over in a frenzy, in the madness. Yet, no one noticed it. The dragon's entire body was snow white, but when it opened its eyes, they were as black as ink. Black and gloomy. It was so dark that not even a trace of reflection could be seen in those eyes. There was only endless darkness. The city lord of Yin City threw himself to the side of the wooden box in joy. The first thing it saw was me. It was me. None of you should fight for it. As he spoke, he reached out to the dragon egg. He saw the dragon's dark eyes staring at him. The city lord of Yin City was so excited that his palms were sweating. The people around him were still pushing and shoving. It was at this moment, when the city lord of Yin City's hand touched the white dragon's head, the white dragon suddenly opened its mouth and bit down on that person's hand. That person did not dodge. Instead, he was overjoyed. This was the beast race's contract method. However, in the next moment, that person's expression changed. He wanted to shake off the white dragon in fear. However, before he could make any reaction, Yi Zich and his entire person seemed to have aged in an instant. In the blink of an eye, only a set of clothes was left, fluttering to the ground. This scene caused the surrounding crowd to be stunned for a few breaths of time. What's going on? Where's the city lord of Yin City's representative? I was just grabbing him. Why? Why did he suddenly? His clothes. These are his clothes. An unknown fear surged in everyone's heart. His excitement over the appearance of the young dragon slowly faded away as well. They did not have a chance to rest or search for answers. They did not have to look for him, because in the next instant, the answer to the disappearance of the representative of the city, Lord of No Yin City, appeared on its own. While everyone was still in shock, the white dragon had left the eggshell at some point in time. The fist-sized dragon-shaped body looked very cute, but what it was doing was shocking. Help! This dragon! Screams of pain resounded in the auction hall one after another. The white dragon quickly swam among the crowd. Whenever it saw someone, it would open its mouth and bite them. In just a few breaths, the person who was bitten was only left with a piece of clothing. The scariest thing was, when the white dragon bit a person, its body would gradually grow bigger. He watched as pieces of clothes fell to the ground. How could everyone not understand what was going on? That white dragon was a monster, a man-eating monster. Everyone frantically ran towards the entrance of the auction. Yi Ching Luo's brows creased tightly as she looked at the chaotic scene in front of her. Her line of sight quickly wandered around the surroundings. Finally, she locked onto a corner where 4 figures were trying to leave quietly. Yi Ching Luo's brows creased as she speedily flew away. Chapter 3683. The executive elder's expression changed slightly. The expressions of the two hall masters darkened. Hall Master Lu was infuriated when he saw Yiqing Luo. If we don't leave, don't tell me we're waiting to be eaten by that monster. Aren't you the guards of the auction? Now that something has happened, you want to be the first to run? Yiqing Luo raised her brows as she teased them. The two hall masters exchanged glances. Hall Master Ji coughed softly. We're just going to mobilize our men. We have to seal off the auction to prevent the monster from escaping and causing panic. Really? Yiqing Luo curled her lips into a smile, which didn't look like a smile, with an obvious look of disbelief. Hall Master Ji coughed again. Of course it's true. Yiqing Luo looked at her with a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Then he put down his hand and moved away. Hall Master Ji. You're letting them leave just like that? Hall Master Ji and Hall Master Lu didn't have time to think about it. Looking at the chaos in the field, more and more clothes fell to the ground. They were no longer in the mood to investigate further. Directly bypassing Yiqing Luo, he ran towards the door. Seeing this, the executive elder also wanted to chase after him. Yiqing Luo smiled as she stretched out her hand to stop the both of them. They're going to mobilize their manpower, the both of you. Where are you going? The executive elder's expression froze. We're also going. You going to mobilize people too? Wasn't the executive elder supposed to enforce the rules of the auction? Who's the person behind you? Yiqing Luo blinked her long eyelashes, pretending to be puzzled as she asked. Executive elder's face sunk as he was unable to reply Yiqing Luo's words. They might as well struggle free from Yiqing Luo's hands and couldn't be bothered to reply as they dashed towards the main entrance of the auction. However, he heard the young girl's mocking laughter behind him. Do you really think that you can really leave the auction venue? The executive elder stopped in his tracks. What does that mean? What do you mean, could they leave the auction? The executive elder suddenly raised his head and looked in the direction of the door. The two hall masters rushed out of the main gate at full speed. But in the next instant, the two of them reappeared in their line of sight. The two of them were obviously very surprised, and their expressions became extremely ugly. They clasped their hands tightly together and walked towards the crowded door again. However, they still returned to the auction venue. This scene stunned the executive elder as well. Their expressions congealed tightly, as though they had thought of something, as all of them abruptly turned around and looked at Yiqing Luo. Do you know something? The girl leaned her shoulder against the wall, her veil fluttering in the wind, outlining a perfect curve. A pair of long and narrow eyes, languid and satisfied. He didn't look like he was in danger at all. Executive elders exchanged glances as they took quick steps towards Yiqing Luo. Earlier, before the dragon egg had cracked open, you shouted that it wasn't a dragon egg. That wasn't a dragon. Do you know what is that thing? Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. Another elder asked, What's going on? Why can't we leave the auction? One could tell just by looking at the two hall masters, trying to escape through the gate. After passing through the gate, he returned to the auction venue. It was like a ghost hitting a wall. Executive Elder recalled the relationship between Yiqing Luo and Red Clear Pavilion as his expression turned grave. Did the pavilion master of Red Clear Pavilion tell you something? Chapter 3684. Miss D, this matter is extremely serious. If we don't settle this as soon as possible, the entire auction, no, to put it more accurately, everyone in the auction will be locked here. When the executive elder was saying this, his face turned extremely pale. Yiqing Luo nodded. Looks like you've realized it. Yiqing Luo's words made the executive elder's face turn even more steely. You really knew what would happen. The executive elder's words attracted the surrounding panic-stricken crowd as they all looked over. After witnessing the white dragon opening its mouth and sucking a person dry, he wanted to escape, but he failed countless times. Everyone's hearts were filled with panic, irritation, and anxiety. Now that they suddenly heard the executive elder's words, The crowd seemed to have found a point to vent as they uniformly gathered around. Executive Elder, what did you say? This lady, she knew all of this long ago? Right. Earlier, before the white dragon came out from the eggshell, I heard her shouting that it's not a dragon egg. I heard it too. Initially, when I saw her appear, I thought she was trying to create a scene because she wasn't able to get the first prize, so I especially took a few more glances. I also heard her shouting that it's not a dragon egg. That monster isn't a dragon at all. The crowd then started to recall Yi Qing Luo's existence. Recalling what Yi Qing Luo had said after she rushed down from the second floor's private room. How do you know that it's not a dragon egg? Did you already know all of this long ago? Or should I say, actually all of this was designed by you? Hearing the various large powerhouses cultivators, as they kept on berating her, Yi Qing Luo started to laugh, facing the crowd's accusations. Even the expression on her face didn't change at all. She only glanced at the crowd lazily as she gave a smile, which didn't look like a smile. What benefits do I get from scheming against you? I even included myself in the scheme. Do you think I'm silly? You just don't want to let the treasure gathering to lose the bet with Zhong Chung exchange. So you intentionally. Before she could finish her words, she was interrupted by Yi Qing Luo with a puffed laugh. Looks like you're really quite silly. Yi Qing Luo's long and narrow eyes narrowed as a biting cold aura burst forth. She raised a finger. First, this thing was obtained by Zhongqing Trading House. It has nothing to do with me or treasure gathering. Then, he raised his second finger. Secondly, this thing, before it finally breaks out of its shell, the bidding price is 500 million crystals. According to the total amount of the two trading houses, the total amount of crystals that the Treasure's Trading House has will not necessarily be lower than the Zhongqing Trading House. At this point, the girl's voice was clearly suppressed, revealing an irresistible coercion. Thirdly, I do not know what kind of monster this thing is. However, I am certain that it is not a dragon. At the most crucial moment, I did warn you, but none of you listened to me. Yi Qing Luo slowly retracted her raised hand as her arms crossed over her chest, as she calmly glanced at the crowd in front of her. You've lost quite a number of elites, which can only mean that they are overly greedy. Everyone was so stunned by Yi Qing Luo's frenzied rebuke that they didn't say a single word of rebuttal. Indeed, at that time, everyone wanted to be the first person the young dragon saw. Chapter 3685. They had no right to blame Yi Qing Luo. Luo. Not far away, Pei Sheng's worried voice was heard. Pei Sheng, Xiao Yinyan, and Old Lai hurriedly rushed towards her direction. Seeing that the three of them were fine, Yi Qing Luo was relieved. Just as her lips curled up and walked towards them, a burst of exclamations rang around, only to see that white dragon, which had the size of an adult man, rushing towards Pei Sheng's direction with lightning speed. That white dragon's target was very obvious, almost without any hesitation. The surrounding people were also frightened by this scene as they fled in all directions, for fear of being bitten by the white dragon. Sheng, be careful. Yi Qing Luo's expression congealed as she flipped her wrist and a flame feather fan leapt out from her fingertips. Following that, a beautiful wind blade pressed towards the white dragon. As this imposing manner pressed downwards, the wind blade exploded on the white dragon's body. The explosive sound shocked the surroundings. The crowd felt as though the ground they were standing on was shaking violently because of the explosion. Although Yi Qing Luo's move was to force the white dragon away and quickly released her strength, but the profound energy which was gathered was obviously directed towards the white dragon. Following that, the young lady leapt. Her fiery red dress fluttered in the sky. Her dress fluttered in the wind like the tail of a phoenix spreading its wings, drawing a beautiful arc in the air. Just as Yi Qing Luo made her move, Pei Sheng also reacted as he swiftly dodged to the other side. Following that, he felt a strong gust of yin qi brushing past him. Although it didn't seep into his body, but he was pushed back a few steps by the remaining power of Yin Qi. Xiao Yinyan was still shouting vigilantly beside his ear. Pei Sheng didn't let his guard down just because he avoided the first wave of Yin Qi attack. He rolled on the ground and avoided it again. At the same time, Yi Qing Luo had already leapt in front of him. The fingers holding the glower flame fan flicked quickly. Like an excited fairy, the most beautiful brilliance was blooming on her fingertips. Boom, boom, boom. The glower flame fan released the profound energy like a hot knife through butter, directly towards the white dragon's face. The powerful pressure shocked the surroundings. The ground shook. Like a spiderweb, it spread out densely. Everyone hid very far away. They were afraid that if they were not careful, the white dragon would turn around and attack them again. Basically, those who were bitten by the white dragon would not have the strength to fight back. In an instant, they would be sucked dry by the white dragon. That lady, isn't she Lady D from the Treasure Gathering sect? Isn't she a friend of that lord from the Red Clearness Pavilion? Doesn't she know that the monster is invulnerable? Chapter 3686. The black fog dispersed. The thing that flew out smashed heavily on the ground, creating a huge crater. And in that deep pit, it was an entirely white thing. White? Wasn't that the monster which looked like a white dragon? The thing which was sent flying was that white dragon monster. Everyone was stunned by the scene in front of them. Her attack is effective against that monster. The profound energy fluctuations on her isn't that powerful. Why was she able to send that monster flying? What's going on? Did any of you see clearly what she did earlier? Everyone's hearts were filled with questions. Those present were basically from various main cities, various powerhouses. Naturally, their abilities were all above average. Because of this, Yi Qing Luo's level of profound energy was considered normal among them. But was this really normal? Their attacks and counterattacks had no effect on the white dragon monster at all. Yi Qing Luo's attack was able to send that monster flying. When that monster, swaying its body, climbed out of the deep pit, that made everyone even more stunned. That monster swayed as it stood up. With a kacha sound, that jade-like white dragon horn on the top of its head directly broke off from its head. Half of the dragon horn hung on its head. It swayed for a few times. Finally, it still fell off from its head, dropping onto the ground. What made everyone's hair stand was, after the dragon horn was broken, but not a drop of blood was seen. That white monster totally didn't feel any pain. It totally didn't bother about the half of the dragon horn which had dropped on the ground. Roar. A deafening dragon roar came from the white monster's mouth. The white monster's figure, which was about the size of an adult man, suddenly leapt towards the sky. A spiraling dragon body instantly appeared in front of everyone's eyes. Such a huge dragon covered the entire sky. It was a patch of gray. The surrounding scenery also became darker by a lot. Dragon. It's really a dragon. This dragon. What on earth is this dragon? What does it want to do? Everyone was extremely shocked. In their hearts, there was fear towards the white dragon, but also yearning. Yi Qing Luo raised her head and looked at the hovering white dragon which covered the entire sky as her slender brows creased slightly. Then his gaze fell on the ground, on the half of the dragon horn. However, she did not pay too much attention to the white dragon. Instead, he put away the glowing flame fan and slowly walked towards Pei Sheng. Ah Sheng, are you all right? Pei Sheng's face was filled with shock as he looked at the white dragon which was circling in the sky, and then looked at Yi Qing Luo in shock. Ew. The one who's all right? That's a real dragon? No. Yi Qing Luo shook her head with a grave expression. I roughly know how this white dragon came to be. If I'm not mistaken, this thing is very difficult to deal with. Pei Sheng did her best to calm herself down. Then, can we still walk out of the auction? Pei Sheng's question was exactly what everyone wanted to ask. The two executive elders were the closest to Yi Qing Luo. He also heard Yi Qing Luo denying that white dragon's identity and opened his mouth to ask, "You say that's not a dragon, then what is that thing?" No matter how one looked at it, it was a dragon. Especially now, it was spiraling in midair. That mighty and domineering look was totally a dragon. But when they heard Di Luo say that it wasn't a dragon, Chapter 3687. Yi Qing Luo replied with a question. "Do you believe me?" The executive elder was stunned. How were they supposed to answer this question? They didn't understand this young lady in front of them. How were they supposed to believe her? And this young lady's ability was probably not as good as theirs. Only when they looked at Yi Qing Luo's calm face, there was an inexplicable feeling in their hearts. At this moment, those who were nearer to them had no time to dwell on this question. They looked in awe at the white dragon which was circling above their heads, even though it had lost that pair of dragon horns. As a dragon's prestige, it still existed. Thinking of the terror of the white dragon, they had no other choice. They were almost choking with sobs. We believe you. Miss D, we believe you. So, I beg you, please ask the people from Red Clear Pavilion to save us." Here, only Yi Qing Luo's attack could cause harm to that monster. If they wanted to leave this place alive, they could only rely on Yi Qing Luo. The commotion over here naturally attracted the attention of the hall masters beside them. Hall Master Lu squinted his lively and adorable eyes, as the expression on his face was very cold. "If you want us to believe you, shouldn't you first take out the capital to make us believe you? At the very least, you have to tell me, what exactly is that monster?" Yi Qing Luo looked to Hall Master Lu calmly as her emotions were very indifferent. "If you don't believe me, even if I tell you what that monster is, you won't believe me." Everyone looked at each other in dismay. The atmosphere froze for a moment. Just at this moment, the silent executive elder suddenly opened his mouth. "We believe you." The two hall masters frowned as they looked at the executive elder. Their mouths moved, but in the end, they didn't say anything. Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as her long and narrow eyes curled into a sinister arc. She slowly raised her head and looked at the white monster in the sky. Following that, she slowly looked at the surrounding crowd. Finally, her gaze fixed on a corner. How long does Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden intend to hide for? Everyone was waiting for Yi Qing Luo's reply. Hearing Yi Qing Luo's words, many pairs of eyes turned in the direction of the corner in unison. Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden? Xiao Yulu? What did she mean by mentioning Princess Yulu at this time? Under everyone's gaze, a slender figure slowly walked out from the darkness. The woman was dressed in white and had a graceful bearing. A confident and flamboyant smile hung on her beautiful face. She just stood there, looking down at everyone with a superior attitude. Princess Yulu. Xiao Yinyan's heart sank as he looked at the imposing woman before him. A sense of unease welled up in everyone's hearts. He seemed to have guessed something, but he couldn't believe it. Yi Qing Luo looked at Xiao Yulu indifferently as she said word by word. "Just as what you think, that monster was brought by Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden." As soon as these words came out, it caused a huge commotion. Everyone looked at Xiao Yulu in disbelief. Why? Princess Yulu wants to do such a thing? This is Without Embroiling City. If she ruins the auction, wouldn't Without Embroiling City be the one to suffer? What's in it for her? Listening to everyone's doubtful discussion, Yi Qing Luo's lips twitched. This must be the celebrity effect, because Xiao Yulu was mysterious maiden. So even in her heart, she guessed that this matter had something to do with Xiao Yulu. Chapter 3688. Yi Qing Luo tilted her head as her lips curled upwards, giving a sarcastic smile. If I didn't guess wrongly, to cause such a consequence, mysterious maiden, you yourself should be very flustered, right? She asked each and every word. Her tone rose slightly. As expected, After Yi Qing Luo's words were questioned, Xiao Yulu's arrogant face froze for a moment. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she suppressed the fluster in her heart, maintaining her voice to be more dignified. The dragon egg is indeed the auction item that Zhong Cheng Trading House had spent a lot of effort to obtain. As you said, I am also very shocked to cause such a consequence, because I don't know anything at all. No, Yi Qing Luo laughed lightly. You're shocked, not because you don't know anything, but because you're merely being used by those people once again. She tilted her head, her black hair spread behind her back, contrasting with that blazing red dress. It was dazzling and moving. She smiled as her eyes were filled with ridicule. You really don't learn to be obedient time and time again, being used by the same group of people. This is the first time I've seen such a dumb person like you. You. Xiao Yulu's smile could not be maintained as she clenched her fists tightly. I'm not cheated, although Zhong Cheng has some responsibility for this matter, but don't think of pushing all the responsibility onto me. Don't be in a hurry to deny or refute. Yi Qing Luo's smile remained unchanged. The person behind you, I'm afraid his motive is not just to deal with me. She paused as her gaze swept across the crowd. Could it be that until now, everyone still hasn't discovered the most important danger? Everyone's hair stood on end from Yi Qing Luo's question. One by one, they looked around, surveying the surroundings. Some of them stared at the white dragon monster which was hovering in the sky. Other than letting out a dragon roar from time to time, there was no movement at all. Suddenly, a cry of alarm was heard. Oh no, we've fallen into a trap. Fallen into a trap? What on earth? Everyone was puzzled. Yi Qing Luo also looked towards the direction of the voice. She had not expected that the first person to discover the abnormality of the auction was actually someone she knew. The people standing in that direction formed a group about 12 to 13 people. They were dressed in green and black attire. The blood-colored flower embroidered on the sleeve was very eye-catching. Weren't those people the members of the Bloody Mercenaries? The person who spoke just now was Bloody Mercenary Group's vice leader, Bo Songi. Following behind them were a few of the team members whom he had met at the West Cliff Mountain. However, Su Qingbingbin was not there. The person who spoke was the vice leader of the Bloody Mercenary Group, who was ranked second. When everyone asked the question, their tone was rather polite. Facing the crowd's questions, Bo Songi ignored him. Instead, he walked straight towards Yi Qing Luo. You've already seen through it, right? Yi Qing Luo smiled without saying a word. Bo Songi's handsome face immediately turned into a ball. He pursed his lips tightly. After a long time, he looked at Pei Sheng and clenched his fists. Fortunately, Zishi didn't follow us in. Pei Sheng felt as if his heart was being violently strangled by that gaze. He lowered his head and avoided eye contact with Bo Songi. What's going on? Don't keep us guessing. Look at the time. We need to unite. That monster might be resting now. What if it starts to suck people again after it has rested enough? Chapter 3689. Yi Qing Luo looked at the crowd. Her face was filled with fear. The sneer at the corner of his mouth deepened. Her lips curled into a smile, which didn't look like a smile. Haven't you discovered? Today's auction is nothing but a scheme. The auction will gather representatives from the 3 main cities of the Earth Realm and various powerhouses to take part in it. The people present are all considered as the top figures of the various powerhouses and are also the core of the various powerhouses. If anything happens to you, it should have a huge impact on the powerhouses behind you, right? When the crowd heard that, they were shocked. At this moment, they finally understood the meaning behind Yi Qing Luo's words. In the auction, there were representatives from various powerhouses from various main cities, and they were trapped in the auction, unable to leave this place. And there was a monster which was impervious to swords and spears, water and fire, eyeing them covetously. If they were not careful, they might become the food in that monster's stomach. 3 main cities, various powerhouses' elite representatives, were trapped in the auction and faced with the danger of losing their lives. If they were all annihilated, not to mention that their powerhouses would be greatly affected, the entire Earth domain was probably going to experience an earth-shattering change. What on earth was this for? Why did they have to be trapped in the auction? Were they trying to make use of them to achieve some goal? Or to catch them all in one go, causing chaos in the Earth realm? After the crowd regained their senses, they instantly became vigilant. All of them looked around in astonishment. There were some who continued to trying to walk out of the auction. But time after time, they returned to the original spot like ghosts hitting the wall. Everyone's heart, bit by bit, sank to the bottom. The atmosphere was terrifyingly gloomy. Some of the outer city powerhouses, tensed up, stared at Xiao Yulu. It's you, right? The dragon egg is the auction item of your Zhong Chung exchange. You're the one who brought the dragon egg. What motive do you have? One of them took the lead to question. The others immediately shifted their gazes onto Xiao Yulu. All of their eyes were scarlet red, as though they had grabbed onto the only hope in a difficult situation. Some of them couldn't be bothered about Xiao Yulu's mysterious maiden identity as they rushed up to detain Xiao Yulu. Presumptuous. Xiao Yulu's expression was dignified as she shouted angrily, "You dare to touch me?" Now, Xiao Yulu was arrogant. This caused the expressions of the people from the various superpowers to turn extremely ugly. What's your purpose? Why did you use the dragon egg to trap us in the auction? Xiao Yulu, here, you are no longer the Empyrean fairy. If you don't let us out, we'll kill you first. Everyone had been forced into a corner. After all, so many people had died. They were all sucked dry by the monster, leaving behind only a set of clothes. No one wants to become like that. Moreover, if Xiao Yulu had planned all of this from the very beginning, then they had traveled thousands of miles to participate in this auction. It was like a sheep walking into a tiger's den, walking into a trap. Perhaps there was a deeper conspiracy behind all of this. The more they thought about it, the more they imagined what would happen next. The more he thought about it, the more panicked he became. No one knew what would happen in the next instant. No one knew when the monster hovering in the sky would launch another attack. Chapter 3690. Ever since Xiao Yulu was born, she had always been surrounded by the stars as she grew up. Good family background, excellent genes, created her top-notch innate talent. Later on, Linglong Palace took a liking to her and nurtured her to become mysterious maiden. Since young, Xiao Yulu had never suffered any setbacks. Many things which were extremely difficult for others to do, she could do it easily. So she had never been treated in such a manner like today. In front of her, those people who were smiling amiably and fawning over her earlier were now looking at her with a furious expression as they spoke harshly. There were even people who directly took action. All their emotions were directed at her. Xiao Yulu's chest was heaving up and down violently. The anger in her eyes kept surging. Earlier, she had applied the beautifying cream on her face, which had regained its original beauty. Under the contortion, it started to hurt faintly. She tried her best to control the anger in her chest. She slowly raised her hand, and her slender fingers gently caressed her face. This was to prevent his face from being ruined like before. Her pair of beautiful eyes were tainted with a cold frost, like floating ice, as she stared at Yiqing Luo with hatred and treachery. The humiliation that she was suffering now, it was all because of this slut. Ever since she met this slut, her smooth sailing life had disappeared. This slut was simply the bane of her existence. If it wasn't for Di Luo, how could she possibly be cheated by that bunch of black-robed men? How could she have fallen to such a state where even she herself didn't know what to do? Right? That's right. She indeed didn't know what to do. If she knew how to leave the auction, long before the white dragon mutated, she would have escaped. How could she possibly wait till now? Xiao Yulu had always thought that that bunch of black-robed men were Di Luo's enemies. But due to the Underworld Palace's power, she didn't dare to take action personally. So she secretly helped her, hoping that she could deal with Di Luo She thought that the black-robed men passed this dragon egg to her so that she could win the bet with Di Luo. But until the white dragon mutated and sucked all those people dry. She then understood. That bunch of black-robed men's target wasn't just Yi Qing Luo and without embroiling city. More importantly, the entire land. Xiao Yulu was able to stand out in the Ling Long Hall and become without embroiling city's Empyrean lady. She was no fool. After everything that had happened, he connected it to Di Luo's speculation. She could roughly guess the purpose of the group of black-robed men with just a little thought. It had already come to this. She could only rely on herself now. If the ambition of those men in black was really that great, as the hero, it was very likely that she would get a share of the benefits. Upon having this thought, Xiao Yulu's eyes flickered, as if her face was covered in a layer of ice. Suddenly, her red lips curled up, and her aura was imposing. She directly walked past the people who blocked her way and spoke harshly. His gaze was directed directly at Yi Qing Luo. Di Luo, you keep saying that you're trying to push all the blame onto me. I can't help but suspect your motives. Xiao Yulu raised an eyebrow and sneered. I feel that you're jealous that I found the dragon egg, and you're worried that the Sincerity Trading House will win the most honor in this auction. So you lost the bet between us? Chapter 3691. The more she spoke, the colder and more imposing Xiao Yulu's voice became. Right from the start, I felt that you were very strange. I couldn't find you at all, but you suddenly appeared in Without Embroiling City and targeted me several times, stirring up trouble in Without Embroiling City. You even bought over the citizens of Without Embroiling City, creating public opinion, making the citizens lose their loyalty to me, and step by step, trying to ruin my reputation. Xiao Yulu's eyes turned cold. I have always been curious. What is your intention in coming to Without Embroiling City? And what is your motive? Now this Empress finally understands. She raised her arm and pointed at Yi Qing Luo. Her voice became even more powerful. From what I see, this is obviously a conspiracy between you and the Hell Palace. Xiao Yulu's speech immediately made the scales in many people's hearts start to tilt. After all, Xiao Yulu was Without Embroiling City's mysterious fairy. Moreover, Xiao Yulu's tone was so sonorous and powerful. No matter how you listened, it didn't sound like a lie. Looking at the crowd's expression, because of her words, there were some changes. Xiao Yulu then raised her brows complacently as she looked at Yi Qing Luo arrogantly, speaking out word by word. This Empress isn't like you, with just words without any proof. The evidence that this Empress has brought out is, when the dragon egg changed, it was precisely when you jumped down from the cabin. When she said this, if there were many people who believed in Yi Qing Luo's suspicions before, but now, the evidence that Xiao Yulu said made people have no choice but to doubt Yi Qing Luo. Indeed, it was when Yi Qing Luo jumped down from the second floor, shouting something. The dragon egg cracked open. If at that time, Yi Qing Luo had done something, making the dragon egg hatch prematurely, and then mutate, resulting in the current situation, it was not impossible. What nonsense are you talking about? I&D Fu. Misty's conspiracy? What conspiracy do I want to plot? Do I need a plot? Listening to Xiao Yulu's words, Lao Lai immediately exploded. He rolled up his sleeves. That horrifying face with blood scars looked extremely sinister. I tell you, if I want to kill you, I will directly fight my way to your door. I don't have the leisure to scheme against this and that. Then, he pointed at Xiao Yulu and said angrily, Little girl, don't try to slander the Underworld Palace. If you have the guts to slander the Underworld Palace, then you should have the guts to bear the consequences. He had to admit it. Old Lai was indeed like a lunatic. Especially now. He pointed at Xiao Yulu fiercely. It scared those cultivators who originally wanted to surround Yi Qing Luo so much that they moved a few steps to the side. Xiao Yulu's face paled slightly. She forcefully suppressed the fear in her heart and raised her chin. Chapter 3692. Yi Qing Luo walked up and pulled Old Lai's arm. She patted his shoulder lightly. At this moment, the more irritable Old Lai was, or if he made a move, it would only prove Xiao Yulu's words. The surrounding people from the various powerhouses were all out of their wits. The misunderstanding was blown up. At this juncture, it would be very troublesome. This was no longer a problem which could be solved by killing Xiao Yulu. Old Lai was pulled back by her. Yi Qing Luo smiled at him. I will prove for you that this matter has nothing to do with the Hell Palace. Old Lai shook off her hand and rolled his eyes at her. Do I need any proof? The Hell Palace originally didn't have any reputation, so I'm not afraid of being blackened further. I'm just angry that a young lass dared to splash dirty water on the Hell Palace. Her desire to live is very strong, and if she doesn't want to die here, she can only choose to cooperate with the mastermind's plan. Yi Qing Luo naturally saw through Xiao Yulu's plan. She raised her eyes slightly and glanced sideways at Xiao Yulu. Her eyes were slightly cold. Even if we catch Xiao Yulu for questioning, we won't be able to get anything out of her. And that monster, I'm afraid it's waiting for someone. Misty, the executive elder's voice was heard. Are you really the instigator? His voice was filled with uncertainty and hesitation. Yi Qing Luo raised her brows as her lips curled into a smile, seemingly ridiculing. Do you still remember the question I asked you earlier? The two executive elders were stunned as they frowned. When they asked Yi Qing Luo if she already knew everything, Yi Qing Luo asked them if they believed her. So, Yi Qing Luo's meaning was, if they chose to believe her, then don't ask. If they didn't, even if she answered them, they wouldn't believe her. The executive elder was instantly in a dilemma. Suddenly, one of the executive elder clenched his fists. Miss D, I believe you. You. The other executive elder looked at that person in shock as he opened his mouth and sighed deeply. Rather than believe without embroiling city's mysterious maiden, I'd rather choose to believe you. She has the red clear pavilion behind her. Perhaps the mutation of a dragon egg was caused by her and the people from the red clear pavilion. Behind him, Hall Master Lu couldn't help but mock when he heard the words of the two executive elders. The power of the red clear pavilion is so mysterious. I heard that the pavilion master is one of the strongest experts in the heaven realm. Hall Master Ji coldly said, I heard that even in the heaven realm, it is rare to hear any news about the red clear pavilion. However, the red clear pavilion just had to appear in such a flamboyant manner at the Earth Realms Auction Conference. Her gaze looked straight at Yi Qing Luo. From what I see, Red Clear Pavilion's people are trying to expand their own ambitions, so they're starting to start from the Earth domain. The executive elder's expression changed again. But very quickly, they still stood firmly behind Yi Qing Luo and the others. Executive elder, every realm has its own rules. If the Red Clear Pavilion really wanted to develop their own ambitions, they would definitely not start from the Earth realm. Executive Elder B, if this matter is really related to Without Embroiling City's mysterious maiden, then your Linglong Palace can't escape from this. If you have the energy to gossip here, you might as well investigate the truth as soon as possible. The two executive elders' words hit the Hall Master's words harshly. They even took the chance to drag the Linglong Palace into this. Chapter 3693. A light laugh interrupted the Hall Master's angry bellows. Yi Qing Luo's eyes curved into crescents as her eyes were filled with ridicule, which means to say, both Hall Masters actually don't really believe in mysterious fairy. Hall Master Lu's distinct big eyes flashed a chilly glint. Yi Qing Luo raised her fair hand and held her lower jaw as she smiled. In a while, you'll say that I've allied with the Underworld Palace to destroy the Earth Realm, to fulfill my ambition. In a while, it'll become me allying with the Red Clear Pavilion. TSK, before you start spreading rumors, can't you first check the reason for spreading rumors? Allying with this, allying with that. Her voice paused for a moment. Suddenly, she lowered her voice and revealed a trace of treacherous coercion. Aren't you afraid that, with such a plot, not only will you offend the Underworld Palace, you'll also offend the Red Clear Pavilion? Yiqing Luo was saying that, while taking a step forward. That shocked the two hall masters so much that their expressions changed as they staggered and retreated a few steps in a disheveled state, until they almost knocked into someone else. They then stabilized themselves. Yiqing Luo tilted her head as her brows were still filled with smiles. Surely you don't really think that that person in the Red Clear Pavilion is no longer around, right? Looking at Yiqing Luo's eyes, the crafty smile was flickering. The two hall masters' hearts suddenly trembled. Their gazes swiftly swept across the surroundings, deeply afraid that what they said earlier would fall into the ears of the people in the Red Clear Pavilion. The two of them felt guilty and naturally didn't dare to find trouble with Yiqing Luo. Executive Elder, it seemed as though he had heard some good news as his eyes lit up. Miss D, that sir in the Red Clear Pavilion, is he really still around? Can we ask that sir to help us resolve this calamity? Executive Elder B asked. The two elders' eyes were filled with hope. Yiqing Luo hadn't said a word. It was Bo Songyi who opened his mouth as he explained on her behalf. The person behind sealed our various powerhouses people in the auction, so they should have long made preparations. I'm afraid that the person behind really wants to make use of this to take action on the Earth Realm. To dare to use such a method to take action in the Earth Realm, that also means that the person behind isn't afraid of the Balanced Historian's arrival. As everyone knew, in order for every realm to develop in a balanced manner, the power suppression between realms was very strict. For example, the White Dragon monster ate humans and sealed off the 3 main cities of the land. This had completely violated the balance of the land. The reason why the mastermind isn't afraid of the Historian of Balance is because he's already prepared for this. Either that, or the opponent has nothing to fear. At this point, Bo Songyi raised his head and enunciated each word clearly. If it's the latter, then even the Lord of the Scarlet Clarity Pavilion won't be able to help us. The executive elder's face turned pale. Then what should we do now? If that monster wants to hurt people again, with its current size, we will suffer more and more casualties. Executive Elder A's eyes were filled with anxiety. Bo Songyi took a look at his brothers behind him and looked at Yiqing Luo. Does Miss D have any ideas? Since the other party is hiding things, why don't we take the initiative to attack, and at the same time, find out who is the person behind this, and what is his motive? Yiqing Luo replied while stroking her chin. If what Vice Leader Bo said is true, if we take the initiative to attack, wouldn't that be? Executive Olby asked worriedly. Chapter 3694. The executive elder was choked by Yiqing Luo's words and couldn't say a word. If everyone is willing to unite, perhaps there will be a chance of survival. Yiqing Luo continued. The executive elder looked at the young lady in front of him. He couldn't describe the feeling in his heart. Obviously, this young lady was not considered as a top figure in this place. Compared to her, there were plenty of people who were stronger. But this young lady had a kind of magical power that made people want to believe in her, especially when they met with the young lady's deep black eyes without a trace of luster. Their hearts seemed to have been bewitched. Yiqing Luo didn't wait for their reply. Her figure suddenly moved and jumped onto the eaves. It looked like she was getting closer to the white dragon monster in the sky. Luo. Pei Shang called her name worriedly, his brows knitted tightly. Qiao Yinyan's expression was also tense. His eyes looked at her without blinking. Yiqing Luo's actions made quite a number of people cast their gazes over. Coincidentally, the white dragon monster was tumbling in midair, circling and roaring. That huge sharp claw just happened to be standing on top of Yiqing Luo's head, looking up at the angle of the eaves. It looked like Yiqing Luo was about to be scratched to death by that white dragon's claw. Everyone's heart was tightly in their throats. They were completely unable to understand the purpose of Yi Qing Luo's action. Under the various gazes of the crowd, the young lady stood there calmly. Between her long and narrow, charming eyes, there was a trace of faint flowing light, treacherous and deep, exuding a dangerous aura. Suddenly, her eyes flashed. The whole person's aura suddenly became fierce. Her red sleeves danced with her fingertips. Just like from the flame, a section of fair green lotus root was revealed. Slender white fingertips, holding a flame feather fan. She flicked her fingers, and the feather fan was like a ball of raging flame. Boom! A strong explosive sound exploded in the air. In a split second, the sky seemed to be dyed red. Like blood red, it covered everyone's eyes. What is she trying to do? Does she want to fight with that monster face to face? Is she crazy? If we anger that monster, none of us can escape. All sorts of voices of shock and complaints rose and fell one after another. Everyone was suppressing fear and negative emotions in their hearts. At this moment, they could not help but let it out. But in the next instant, everyone's complaints were stuck in their throats. On the eaves, the young girl dashed toward a certain direction within the blazing red light. Still want to run? The young girl's chilly voice was like pearls and jade falling onto a plate. It revealed a sense of alienation and coldness that made others unable to approach her. The girl moved as fast as lightning. It was like a sharp blade. He charged straight in that direction. He stretched out his hand. He grabbed someone's shoulder. That person was obviously still surprised that he had been discovered. With a flip of his hand, he broke free from Yi Qing Luo's grip and quickly escaped. The corners of Yi Qing Luo's lips curled upwards as the glower flame fan in her hand flickered with a seductive red glow. She moved her fingers. The dark force was like a wind blade. It wrapped around the man. Seeing that the situation was not good, the man struck out with his palm and quickly moved away. Yi Qing Luo flipped a few times in midair and avoided the surging palm wind. Her vision brushed past the executive elder. The moment their eyes met, the executive elder seemed to have understood something. Chapter 3695. Oldby was still shouting out his slogan. Everyone, no matter who is responsible for today's matter. Our only aim is to leave the auction, to walk out of this sealed space. So what we need to do now is to unite and face the external threat together. After our lives are secured, then we can continue to ferret out the mastermind behind this, to find out who is it. The executive elder's words were subtly informing everyone, even if they still suspected Yi Qing Luo. But at this juncture, everyone could only let go of the grudge in their hearts. Everyone looked at each other in dismay. Many of them were still hesitating on the spot, but some felt that what the executive elder said was very reasonable. Thinking of Yi Qing Luo's earlier actions, and that man who was running away, the few of them reacted swiftly and chased up. There were also people who immediately went to stop that man. A group of people joined hands, and in just a moment, they had already intercepted that man. That man's eyes were filled with murderous intent. His face was extremely distorted. His mouth gave out a roar similar to a wild beast. Following that, he bared his fangs and brandished his claws as he attacked the people surrounding him. Everyone felt strange and were about to retaliate. Following that, a red shadow flashed past. The young lady's leg flew up and kicked that man's back fiercely. That man didn't even make a sound. He fell straight onto the ground. Everyone immediately took a few steps back. All of them stared vigilantly at the man who had fallen on the ground. Miss D, who is he? Why do you want to capture him? Don't tell me that the monster is caused by this man. Everyone asked in puzzlement. Yi Qing Luo patted her sleeves and slowly walked towards that man who was lying on the ground. The surrounding people subconsciously moved to the two sides, opening up a path. Yi Qing Luo walked to that man's side and raised her leg, giving that man a kick. That man didn't move an inch. Yi Qing Luo squinted her eyes slightly and was about to exert force. Suddenly, a ridiculing laughter was heard, deliberately mystifying. Are you trying to find someone to take the blame? That man has already been beaten to death by you, and then with the dead leaving no evidence, you can fabricate anything you want. Xiao Yulu sneered as her red lips curled upwards, proudly crossing her chest. Di Luo, what are you still trying to struggle for? Yiqing Luo glanced at her faintly, and following that, she exerted strength with her feet, flipping the unmoving person over. She said calmly, "Take a good look at who he is." Everyone was curious, so they squeezed forward to take a look. When he saw the face clearly, everyone's expression changed drastically. Auctioneer, how could it be him? Why did he? Could it be that all of this was caused by the auctioneer? When the crowd saw that familiar face, all sorts of guesses started popping up in their hearts. Yes, don't forget, when it came to the last item, the auctioneer's behavior was obviously different from before. He kept persuading us to raise the price and bid for the dragon egg. In the end, it was still him who wanted us to observe the dragon egg up close. It was because we got close to the dragon egg that it broke and released that monster. Right. Did you notice another detail? After the dragon egg hatched, he ran faster than anyone else. It's obvious that it's not a dragon inside the egg, but a monster, one of them said. 10,000 people agreed. The crowd instantly felt their hearts palpitating. The more they thought about it, the more terrified they felt, no matter who the person behind the dragon egg was. Chapter 3696. Who knows? Could it be that she saw that the matter was exposed and used her accomplice, the auctioneer, to take the blame? Xiao Yilu snorted coldly. In any case, the dead cannot testify. This empress doesn't believe you. Yiqing Luo chuckled and shot a glance at her disapprovingly. I don't need your trust. Then he paused. Yiqing Luo burst out laughing again, as her long and narrow eyes curved, filled with ridicule and ridicule. You'd better think carefully on how to gain that bunch of people's trust. Don't forget, that time in West Cliff Mountain, that bunch of people totally didn't consider your life. This time around, are you sure that those people will consider letting you leave the auction hall alive? Will the monster in the sky really not attack you? Yiqing Luo's every question was emphasized. Like a hammer, it hit Xiao Yulu's heart heavily. Xiao Yulu subconsciously thought of the soul-devouring formation in the West Cliff Mountain. The pain of being devoured by those evil spirits. There was also the pain of being disfigured. Her delicate body trembled uncontrollably. There was also a trace of fear on his face. She shook her head. Her eyes were slightly red as she stared fiercely at Yiqing Luo. I don't know what you're talking about. Yiqing Luo smiled without saying a word. Bo Songyi and the others also gathered around her. Miss D, the auctioneer, is dead. I'm afraid that the clue has been broken. What should we do next? Don't tell me. We have to start with that monster. Xiao Yinyan looked up at the white dragon with a solemn expression. Yiqing Luo laughed lightly, since the other party had long used the auction as bait, intending to wipe out all the powerhouses in the Earth domain in one fell swoop. Naturally, they have made full preparations. The girl's smile made everyone stunned for a moment. You mean? Xiao Yinyan lowered his gaze and looked at the person lying on the ground. Yiqing Luo's brows rose tightly as she slowly lowered her eyes. She curled her lips into a seductive smile. Then he bent down. The foot that was stepping on the auctioneer's chest increased in strength as he bent over. The auctioneer, who was lying on the ground, looked dead. There was no reaction from Yiqing Luo's increased strength. The crowd around them whispered to each other. It was obvious that he didn't trust Yiqing Luo. After Yiqing Luo bent over, she maintained this position. She smiled wickedly, like a female playboy. If you plan to let me slaughter you, I don't mind turning you into a dismembered corpse. Her voice was clear and sweet, and her tone was calm. It didn't sound like he was saying anything dangerous at all. A complete corpse or a corpse that's turned into minced meat? Which do you prefer? Her voice was loud. The people around him couldn't help but rub their arms. This girl, She looked young, gentle, and charming. How could they be so bloody and cruel? Not even sparing the corpses? This was the rhythm of whipping a corpse. Everyone's gaze towards Yi Qing Luo had some subtle changes. Everyone was pointing at him. Yi Qing Luo totally didn't put a heart. She just quietly looked at the auctioneer beneath her feet as she said word by word, "Don't doubt my ability. Even that monster, I can injure it till it's unable to regenerate itself. Do you think this not considered a successful experiment can regenerate itself in my hands?" She laughed lightly. His laughter carried a treacherous coldness that caused one to be terrified, for words were spat out silently from her lips. Chapter 3697. He's already dead and you're still putting on an act. Who are you trying to show? The more you act, the more fake you look. I think Princess Yulu is right. You were the mastermind behind all of this. Di Luo, what motive do you have? Trapping us in the auction. Don't tell me you really want to join forces with other forces to control the Earth domain. Seeing Yi Qing Luo still talking to a corpse, everyone felt that it was ridiculous. That auctioneer was obviously kicked to death by Yi Qing Luo earlier. Even now, he was still putting on an act and chatting with a corpse. Did she treat them as fools? The more Yi Qing Luo acted in this way, on the contrary, they started to suspect Yi Qing Luo even more. That white dragon monster is definitely created by her. Let's catch her first. Then we'll force her to tell us the way to leave the auction. That's right. Catch her first. We can't let her escape. The crowd swarmed forward, intending to catch Yi Qing Luo. At the same time, the crowd suddenly felt a burst of dense and overbearing profound energy suddenly spreading in the air. The vast aura made the entire space felt oppressive. Following that, everyone was shocked by that powerful aura as they retreated a few steps. Swoosh! A slight sound was heard. The crowd saw the auctioneer, who was originally lying on the ground like a corpse, actually stood up straight, and this vigorous energy was being emitted from his body. Everyone's heart trembled in shock. This what was going on? Why? The dead auctioneer suddenly came back to life? And that energy which had far exceeded their imagination, where did it come from? They had participated in the auction for so many years. This was the first time they found out that the auctioneer who had been hosting the auction for them had such a powerful ability. This profound energy was overbearing and terrifying. It was emitted in the air. Unknowingly, it gave one an extremely oppressive feeling. How did you discover me? The auctioneer's eyes were gloomy, totally different from his amiable expression during the auction. His sentence was obviously directed at Yi Qing Luo. The crowd heard the murderous tone. Their hearts couldn't help but clench together. It made one's heart feel an indescribable oppressive feeling. However, what surprised everyone was, facing the auctioneer, the young lady's expression didn't change in the slightest. It was as if he was not affected by the auctioneer at all. Between his brows, his emotions were extremely faint. Yi Qing Luo met the auctioneer's gaze, and the pink lips under the veil curled into a slight arc. Ever since I saw that monster, I've already guessed it. She paused for a moment, and then waved the devouring flame fan at the tip of her finger. I didn't expect that my guess would actually be correct. The auctioneer's gaze was fixed on the fan in Yi Qing Luo's hands as his brows sunk. It's that weapon. Yi Qing Luo waved her glower flame fan. That's right inside. There's my secret weapon. Although it might not be able to kill you, at the very least, it will prevent you from automatically recovering. The glowing fan had been refined by Tang Bei Yuan and had devoured Yuan's mental power. Right now, the glowing flame fan was the best weapon to deal with the undead puppets. However, this corpse puppet from the land, it was the auctioneer in front of him. Although it was not a finished product, but he was very strong. Her mental strength was also a little taxing on her. The glowing flame fan was unable to deal too much damage to the auctioneer. Chapter 3698. Also, all of you will become food for my war pet, White Fang. The auctioneer opened his arms and spoke in a dignified manner. The corners of his mouth curled up into an evil smile. His figure suddenly moved. In the next instant, he appeared in midair, and the white dragon monster that was originally hovering in the sky and roaring from time to time. Its huge body moved downwards. Then, he took the auctioneer's hand steadily. This scene caused everyone to be dumbfounded. That monster, it was actually the auctioneer's war pet. That was a man-eating monster. Everyone looked at the powerful and completely different auctioneer and suddenly said, "Huh? You are not from the Earth Realm? You, what do you want to do?" Such a powerful aura, and he could subdue that invulnerable monster. This was definitely not a strength that a person from the Earth Realm could have. Facing everyone's shocked expression, the auctioneer obviously enjoyed it. He sat on the head of the white dragon monster and smiled proudly and arrogantly. "I used to be from the Earth Realm, but now I am not." He chuckled. The black gas in his eyes was like a surging ink spring, surging. Listening to the auctioneer's answer, the fear in everyone's heart increased. Not from the Earth Realm now. In other words, the auctioneer had ascended. Now, he had become a person from the Heaven Realm. So, what happened today was done by the people from the Heaven Realm. Someone from the Heaven Realm was ambitious. They wanted to change the dynasty of the Earth Realm. This thought flashed across everyone's mind. It made everyone's face turn pale. "Ha ha! You bunch of stupid people, no one can escape." The auctioneer laughed wildly. Suddenly, he stretched out his finger and said proudly, "White Fang, go! Devour the souls of these people, devour their Xian-Qi, and turn their power into our power." Roar! The dragon's roar was deafening. The white dragon's body, which was hovering in midair, shook violently. It was as if the world had been turned upside down by the white dragon monster. Everyone's face became more and more pale. That monster, the monster is going to attack people again. Quick, run. That monster hasn't moved, so it's waiting for its master. He had seen how terrifying the white dragon monster was. The crowd watched as the white dragon bent down and shook its body. They were so terrified that they almost collapsed to the ground. The white dragon roared, opened its bloody mouth, and rushed towards the people below. It was huge. This mouth could swallow at least 10 people into its stomach. Everyone was horrified. Run. Don't let that monster touch you. Once bitten by a monster, that was the consequence of dying without a complete corpse. Ha ha ha. You can't escape. None of you will be able to escape. The auctioneer was delighted to see the crazed crowd. He loved to watch his prey flee frantically. But no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape from the palm of his hand. This feeling was refreshing. The white dragon swooped down. His entire body exuded a murderous aura, as well as a bloody and savage aura. Everyone felt fear from the bottom of their hearts. The white dragon monster was impervious to weapons, water, and fire. They could not fight back against the white dragon. He wanted to escape. However, he was not as fast as the monster. They were like lambs waiting to be slaughtered. It was just a matter of who killed first or later. Everyone panicked in their hearts and fell into despair and chaos. Suddenly, a hurricane swept past. You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.